Okay, on to Street Talk for this week, and it was a great week of Corrie this week. I absolutely, we both enjoyed this, didn't we? We had our friend Rachel round on Monday, as we usually do. We said we'll get a special episode in store for you today, and I loved it. Everybody seems, well, not everybody, but it got a very high banging rating on the Conversation Street Twitter page, and I don't know what other metric you need to measure it by, really. So I'm very much looking forward to chatting about this today. Running down the storyline titles quickly, I didn't really know what to do for this knife crime. We when this came up a couple of months ago or weeks ago, I can't remember, we called it another stab at the knife crime story.
Oh my god, you can't do that.
I know. And then I was going to go with something to do with Stabby and Abby, because they kind of go together, and she was. I've ended it up with something which is probably more of an in-joke between you and me, but I'm just calling it Mason! Which is... would you like to explain that hilarious storyline title, Gemma?
Well, because when Dylan went to London...
When he was a little babby.
When Violet and Jamie stole him away, you won't believe this, but Sean theatrically yelled, "My son!" like that.
And it's become a bit of a Corrie quote for the ages.
Quite a lot, actually.
Whenever anything happens with somebody's son on Corrie, we go, my son! So this is Mason! Because I think that's what a lot of people were crying out this
Well,
week.
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
You are, yeah. Is you cheering up a little bit? You're a bit of the Jack D of the podcast today, aren't you? But it's all right. Everybody loves him, so you can keep it up. Next up, I mean, that's going to take the lion's share of the discussion this week, obviously. But we also had the Carla story, calling it "Our Kid's Kidney Needed." Because she's going to get Rob's kidney, isn't she? Your little brother Rob's kidney. Is she?
Everyone's been quite previous with this. We haven't even tested him yet, have we?
I know. Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Then we've got the grandmother-in-law storyline as well to come up after that. But they're going to be ages away because we've got a lot to say about the Mason storyline. I was just wondering, because I've been thinking about this. I don't know whether you had any reflections on it. But we first heard about this storyline when we were at the press day a couple of months ago. And Kate Brooks was kind of saying various stories that were going to be up and coming in early 2025.
She did.
And she was bigging up the knife crime story and saying, it was going to be issues and blah, 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 blah. I don't remember having a particularly favourable impression of it when she introduced it. Obviously, any kind of dark, gritty, raising awareness of story, it's going to elicit a little bit of a okay from me, because and partly because sometimes they can be a little bit, especially when they're gangstery, not that this particularly was in the end. I was thinking, this is going to be crimey, we've had enough of that, let's have a little bit of cheer on the street maybe. Also, I knew that Corrie fans in general, or at least those ones online that like to share their distastes for what's going on in Coronation Street at the moment. I thought, I don't think people are going to like the idea that a teen knife crime story is going to be taking centre stage. So I was a little bit wary, but I was quite trepidatious about it. And she was saying it's going to be big. I think I remember her saying we didn't get told who was going to be stabbed, did we?
No.
And also, I think one of the journos that was there was like, does the person who was stabbed survive? And she was like, I'm not telling you. We're going to leave that hanging for you. So it kind of teased us a little bit, but yeah, I kind of came away thinking, okay, it's going to be a dark stabbing storyline or whatever. I don't know. Do you remember having any particular thoughts or hopes, or were you feeling a little bit about it? And has that changed?
Yeah, when she said it, I was like, oh god.
There's been a few stories there that we were revealed where we're like, okay, that sounds good, that sounds really interesting. We're not too sure about this one, but yeah, I just was like, and I think that says a lot with what we were saying about trying to look on the positive side for Corrie in 2025. I even when the big piece of art, the Danielle Bagley big photo of the main lineup of this story, the one on the play park.
Danielle Bagley photo of the story.
Exactly. Where it's, and the precinct, and it's all dark and moody, and it's got Dylan, it's got Mason, it's got Abby kind of having a sad lean, and everyone's very grumpy.
Like me.
And this was
I could have been in that picture.
This was the photo, this is the poster of this week. And I saw lots of people online going, oh, here we go, more misery for Coronation Street, oh my God. And it really does go to show, not that I'm saying that everybody who had that reflection or reaction to it has changed their mind and they were wrong, but it's been really pleasing to see that lots of people have said, you know what, that was absolutely excellent this week, especially Monday's episode. I mean, I would say that Monday's was by far the best, Wednesday down, Thursday down from that, but on the whole, I still, you know, we gave it more bangings, didn't we? Did you give Thursdays a banging? I think so. Yeah. So yeah, it was a very high bar this week, and yeah, it just kind of made me think I shouldn't necessarily judge stories on first impressions.
You're allowed to judge them, right?
Or just be careful of prejudice.
But this is don't let prejudice stop you from enjoying something. Is my only, don't let your prejudgment, literally, ruin it for you.
I think I'm going to hate this.
But I think a lot of people were deciding in December, look, this show's crap. I hate it. I think Kate Brooks is terrible. As soon
as the interview embargo
when the interview came out
on the 27th.
And the coverage of the press day and a lot of the spoilers came out, everyone's like, this is terrible. It's going to be terrible. I hate everything about this show. I'm not going to watch it anymore. And then when this week happened, I think a lot of people were like, wow, fine. That was good, but this is what I was kind of saying along, as we were going along, and why I was kind of surprised, because our interview with her was more about how it's going to be done, and the spoilers was like what will be done, right? And I definitely agree that some of what will be done, I think, the same as I thought about this.
But you might be proved wrong.
Don't really go much on that, to be honest with you. But the way it is done is such an important part. Maybe you're not going to enjoy every single storyline, but that's no different from any other year in Coronation Street. And when you look back on previous decades or years of Corrie, you're only going to remember the stuff you really liked, aren't you? So just, I think, focus more on how things are done. Are they done well? And are they done in an entertaining way? Even if it is in a dark and gritty way, it's still entertaining.
Yeah.
And I think you can say that for this week. Nobody was going, God, tell you what, I don't know about knife crime. We need more knife crime stories. Coronation Street hasn't done a knife crime story. We need one. I really want a knife crime. Nobody was crying out for a knife crime story. No one's ever crying out for a story like that. But this was so well done, and it was really, I thought it was gripping. I thought it was dramatic. I thought it was fascinating. Again, when we said non-linear storytelling, she's going to use non-linear storytelling. Everyone, and to a certain extent, sometimes I will roll my eyes at that. What does that even mean? For goodness sake, it's Coronation Street. The way it was used on Monday was so effective.
It really, really was. And I think what people have been saying, and I totally understand where they're coming from here, and I would probably say I would agree with them as well, is that if it gets used this frequently, because it has seemed to be ramping up quite a bit in the last few months, or even the past year, but I would say since in the past few months, it really does start to lose its shine. But then you get something like Mondays where it catches you off guard by how they did it. I mean, I think for me it's kind of the wibbly wobbly woozy sound effects and camera effects that take me out of it a little bit. And I think if they were doing a dream sequence or a flashback or flash forward or flash sideways or have it every week or every episode, it would get tiresome. So I think what I would say is that the production team at Coronation Street need to be really careful to make sure these special episodes still remain special, and the best way of doing that is by spacing them out.
Yeah, and
it was clever, but be careful.
And I do think there are still people who are not going to like it, who didn't like it, and that's fair enough. That's fine.
Yeah, totally fine.
If you're going to say, it's not really Corrie, I always come back with blah, 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 this happened, that happened. But I will agree with you that it's completely different. But you can't keep things in a little, time capsule. It just doesn't work that way. It's really unfortunate.
As long as there are elements of what you consider core to Coronation Street.
Mm-hmm. And for some people there aren't. And they are going to stop watching.
But on the flip side, if you say, I don't like the non-linear storytelling stuff on Monday, what I would say that worked really well, that was very classic Coronation Street, was the community side of things this week. This story showed how the stabbing and Mathan's death really did affect the community as a whole, there wasn't a huge, we didn't have all 70 odd cast members going, oh, Mason, but there was enough, and it spread around, and people were talking about Mason, and more people were bringing the tributes to him, the flowers, by the end of the week, which was lovely. And it was something that everybody could have a bit of a gossip about. Even was Fizz and Tyrone talking about it? Maybe, I can't remember.
Well, yeah, because they're.
Oh yeah, of course they were, because Hope was.
But this is part of it, and it's going to get more complicated for us to do the notes because the stories are interweaving, which they never really did that much before.
No, but and I don't think it was every week.
One of the things that Kate Brooks was saying, she wanted more community stuff, and there we go.
Yeah.
And also the other thing that it draws on the strength of soaps, where even though this character is a very new character, some of the people involved in it are drawing from years of backstory, like Abby with her trauma about Seb. You've got even Hope doing the prank call. She's been that way for her whole life. So although it's kind of it feels a bit grandma sucking eggs to say focus on the personalities and the backstories of the characters when you're making stories, this is what's been done in this.
I don't know whether the Hope comparison is as well. Does this fit quite as well as it does for Abby? I mean, maybe if you look back at it, I'm kind of thinking, oh, she's not really the sort to go and play pranks, and they were kind of tacked on last week to build up to this. But
I suppose setting fire to this trampoline is not really a prank.
No, not quite the same thing. I mean, if she'd videoed the blazing trampoline and uploaded it to her Send PX
now
account,
she's realised if you commit a crime but you film it and laugh, it's a prank.
yeah, exactly. It's a whole new world to her as she goes through her teenage years. Or maybe she's learned her lesson. I don't know.
Well, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There are other examples.
And sometimes, I mean, you might say, well, why did this particular event rock the community of Weatherfield so much? Because there's constant drama going on. And yeah, that's right. If you go back to, say, the Stephen serial killer storyline from a few years ago, people were being killed, people were being knocked out by office stationery. And, a couple of doors down, nobody batted an eyelid about it because it wasn't involved in their story.
Yeah.
So why has this one captured everybody's interest? I don't know, because Kate Brooks wants it to. And my hope going forward into 2025 is we do get a few more people reacting or just mentioning a storyline as they get on with their own adventures.
But, we say Kate Brooks, but also this is what we want. This is what the fans want, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, because Corrie is all about community.
You know what? You mentioned that photo.
Yeah.
When's the cast photo coming out?
I don't know when the cast photo is coming out. They took that cast
photo. You know what we should do? We should have a missing poster for it. Have you seen this photo? And then we should keep going until they release it. We should force them to, because as soon as they release it, it was us that made them do it.
Shall I tell you what it is? I think Henenworth blinked.
We have to do it. We have to wait 10 years and do another one.
Yeah, so she's trying to get her back. She's like, no.
Well, yeah.
No, I'm not going back for it.
By the time
I blink all the time, you should have been used to it.
I mean, even if they release it now, 2 people are gone, aren't they?
Yeah, it's already out of date.
Yeah.
I think Luca Toolan was in that photo.
Why wouldn't
I don't know what's going on with that. Right.
Practically every single person was in that photo, weren't they? Apart from like 2 or 3
Yeah, there was a couple of people that didn't turn up to it, so they had to be photoshopped in.
Missing in action. We demand the cast photo. You have to give in to our demands. We either go on about it till we get it.
We will. So I don't know how we're going to do this. So there's so much to discuss with this storyline. I think the Mason storyline is going to also include other tangentially related, so it will go off topic slightly, but because it was all linked together, it's all together for a reason. But we'll swap every day because there's an awful lot to say for each day.
All right, you do today, and
you
I'll
want
do
me to
tomorrow.
do Monday? Okay.
No, I'll do something on Saturday. What? You can do this now.
No. So, do you want to do Monday or do you want me to do Monday? This is the big one.
Gosh, I think you should, because you're so good at doing this.
Stop it.
What? No, I'm trying to be nice to you. I've been pulled up for being horrible, so this is me.
We did get a bit of a review on iTunes this week.
Unlistenable,
and
apparently,
it's my fault. Because Gemma's horrible to me all the time.
And you got one star, same as I did out of that.
I know, we did get 1 star out of that. It's a shame, isn't it? Never mind.
I'm a 1-star bitch,
maybe they're not listening to us anymore.
Hopefully, because it's not listening.
Reviews. Just stop listening. That's easier. Right, so it all starts off on Monday. Basically, Monday's episode was all to do with this story, and it's not very often that happens. You get things like the Coronation Street that they did for a week. I think, and the parallels there are, like you said, there are definitely parallels with Seb's story. If you remember back to that one, that story was the only story in Coronation Street for, I'm going to say, about maybe a fortnight after the kicking took place. They didn't move away from that story, and I was wondering whether they were going to go down the route of that for this as well. But I think probably they'd have had the Carla and Swain fans banging on their door saying, "We want to know what that Carla's kidney, what's going on there." And I thought Rob was going to come back.
We want more.
And Maureen Lipman was there going, "Look, can I go, please?" And I'm like, no. Mason's been stabbed. And she says, "Excuse me, I want some leaving scenes." But yeah, it was. Oh
yeah, it's another one. 3. Gail, Evelyn and Mason.
Evelyn's not properly left.
No, she's not really.
And I do apologise. I don't know. Nobody's complained about this. But last week on the podcast, we talked about Maureen Lipman's decision to go part-time or kind of step back a little bit, but she's still going to be in it. I didn't know whether she was even going to be in it this week or not when I said that. And I certainly didn't know that she was going to have anything resembling a leaving scene. It probably would have been better to have discussed this after she had her goodbye scenes on Thursday, but it still stands. We haven't seen the last of Evelyn. She's going to be back,
but we don't know when. We don't know.
Don't know in what capacity. But anyway, parking that. Let's get on with the Mason storyline. So it starts off. The first few scenes were just like him going about his daily life and being, "Oh, aren't I a nice chap?" and also a bit sad for making Betsy upset last week. So
yeah, because the last time we'd seen him, he had gone to see Betsy and told her that his brothers were responsible for Becky's death.
Yes. Yeah, for her mum's death, and she says, "You're painting you with the same brush. You're as bad as each other, bad blood, and so on." And Mason's there, a bit miserable on Monday, saying, "Yeah, well, I'm going to go off to Germany because Betsy doesn't like me. There's nothing for me here. Brothers are going to be locked up." I guess we haven't said yet. We knew that going into Monday's episode, this was going to be a big one. How sure were you when we started Monday's episode that he was going to be pushing up daisies by the end of it?
I was very sure, and you told me off because I said something about it, and you said I'd spoiled it for Rachel.
Oh no! What? No, our friend Rachel. You'd said, you mentioned. Oh, I think he's gonna die, didn't you? But that's because we knew he was going to be stabbed.
Yes.
She didn't know he was going to be stabbed even.
Yeah, I know.
It felt that the build up to this, they'd said it was going to be a big episode. They hadn't revealed he was going to die, but it just kind of felt right.
It's because he kept saying things like, "I'm going to Germany now," and when he was looking at those flowers outside Des, I was like, "Oh yeah, they're going to be stuck outside somewhere."
Yeah,
wherever he gets stabbed.
Well, it also,
Dev didn't put any of those flowers down, did he? I love that for him. Dev's like, those are $15.99. He's not getting them. He didn't buy him alive. He's not getting them dead.
I think it was also like the lovely stuff that he had with Betsy last week before she decided that she didn't want anything to do with the relative of her mother's killers, and it was just everything was looking a little bit too nice, and that's the same with Seb, wasn't it? I think it was a bit longer for Seb, that little romance that they built up between her and Nina, but it was, the parallels were so clearly there, and Coronation Street is always very good at making us feel something for a couple if they really, really want us to, and because they're going to kill him off afterwards. So I was kind of thinking this is going to totally go down the route of Seb.
It's the same with, like it was a single person, because Mason last year was a scrote, wasn't he?
Yeah,
horrible,
totally
scrote. So I don't think anyone would have cared if he got stabbed. In fact, we would have been really happy and gone, great, good.
What, last year?
If he'd been stabbed, because he was horrible.
Yeah, they had to make us care, and so many comments I've seen online saying, "Oh, just as I was about to like him."
I know, and
I was just starting to like him.
It makes me laugh a bit because they did it on purpose. They made you like him so they could kill him.
I think it was great that they made us like him before they killed him. Because you're right, if this had been back in February, I'd been like, oh, okay, it would not have had the emotional impact.
Here's an idea. Try this trick, but do it with Lauren.
Yeah, I know. Well, maybe if we suddenly start to like Lauren,
I think she's going to go down.
For the chop, yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know. But... yeah, I people who are saying, "Oh, I can't believe they killed him off. What a stupid thing to do. He was just turned into a good character." Literally, if they weren't going to kill him off, they wouldn't have made him a good character. That's what this redemption arc was leading up to. I don't know whether this is true, but Sorry, we're supposed to be synopsising. You all know what happened. You watched it.
Well, that you can say that every time.
I know. I believe, and maybe I will be corrected on this at some point, that Mason was supposed to exit the show springtime last year when he was sent to jail, and I think that was supposed to be the last. My theory is that was the last we were going to see of him. And then they decided, hang on a minute, maybe we can keep this stabbing story going on a little bit longer. Maybe we can make it bigger. And then they decided, let's keep him going for a little bit just to kill him off. That totally makes sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know if that's actually what happened.
No,
if that did happen, I would be of no.
Luca has said in post Monday posthumous interviews that he found out about it. What was it? April or February? I can't remember. Early last year, he said, I found out that this was going to happen. So this storyline is, a good year or so in the making.
It's interesting because this is also, not a Kate Brooks story, really. It's just the way it's being told is a sort of Kate Brooks story.
Yeah.
To some extent.
It feels like
it's going to be a...
Yeah, the time that he was told this is what's going to happen, that it feels like that was in the interim period of, we haven't really got a producer at the moment. But somebody must have called him up to the office and said this is the plan. But yeah, this is what I believe. If that idea hadn't happened, and if they decided that we're going to park this bullying storyline once Dylan gives evidence him and he's sent down, that would have been the last that we'd have seen of him. So I'm really grateful that they did see the potential in Luca Toolan and say, well, let's bring him back for a little bit and do this for him.
I know you're not supposed to say this, and he was horrible, really horrible, but Luca Toolan has just got this thing about him where you're like, oh.
What?
He's all right, isn't he? He's just misunderstood.
But I don't think we thought that this time last year.
But they kind of, yeah.
There was nothing redeemable about him.
I did say Luca. I didn't say Mason.
Yeah, but I mean,
met him. You met him.
Yeah,
He's nice.
We've met Luca a couple of times, and he is really nice. I think that does. No, none of them are horrible. That does help. Getting to know the person.
I think it's bad. I think we should stop doing it. It clouds my judgment. Yeah,
that's true. Well, we love Phelan, and that's because we got on well with Conor McIntyre, didn't we? Yeah. But yeah, I think that certainly helped me to warm to him. I've forgotten where I'm going with this, but yeah, Mason. He died, right. So Monday he dies. Tuesday he was right.
on ice.
So you're getting all these kind of, was it crossfades? I can't remember, to Mason at various points during his day. Yeah, this is weird
because you had to do this because you don't normally...
No, very rarely.
In Corrie, you cut to some other character. You don't cut to the same person.
Yeah, so the second scene is the one outside the corner shop that you were talking about earlier. He's deciding to buy some flowers for Betsy, I think possibly under Dylan's recommendation. And... Deb is on top form here, quoting Shakespeare. What was it that he gives some advice later and Mason goes, is that Shakespeare as well? And he goes, Deb Spear?
Yes.
I want the complete works of Deb Spear, please.
Yeah,
I would pay good money for that. And I'm going to say that I don't think, and I don't say this very rarely, I don't think that Jimmy Mystery was at his peak. No, it's not him. No, not Jimmy Mystery. Jimmy Harkishin. Jimmy Mystery's been dead for ages on Coronation. Jimmy Harkishin, not every single performance that he gave this week was appropriate in its effervescence, but this one absolutely was. I thought it was hilarious. And then
I love Dev no matter what.
I know.
You're never going to hear me say that.
But Mason's kind of complaining about the price of the flowers, and so he should. They did not look like they were worth £15.
I did say $15.99, but it wasn't. It was $14.99.
Oh,
that's
correction
too much.
Corner.
They were not even worth half that. Dev,
especially there's a florist right down the street. I don't know why
you could
Dev's
have got
even...
a really nice. I know you could have got a really nice bunch for £15.
You could have offered Tracy, absolutely. Anyway, Yasmin walks over and we get into a bit of discussion about the fact that Alia is going to be representing the Radcliffes, and Yasmin says, "Oh yeah, but it's just a job." That sets things up quite nicely, particularly, we knew that Alia had been doing work with the Radcliffes a couple of weeks ago, but because now this is a stabbing storyline, I'm predicting that Alia's maybe going to have a bit of a chickening out, or maybe can I really represent these people? Because, I was stabbed. Remember that, everybody? I was a victim a couple of years ago, and now I'm representing people who stabbed people. I can't do this. I can't. Are you thinking that maybe it's going to go down that route?
Why is she? She's not qualified as is she? She can't
gosh,
be.
no, not at all.
Unless like you could go to Ireland and they just like give you a certificate.
No, I think she's shadowing someone who's representing the Radcliffes. But yeah, the fact that it's a stabbing does tie in quite neatly.
Yeah, of course it does. It's all part of the drama, but it is just typical of Alia. Like she's just a kind of annoying and smug, and she was so kind of pleased with herself for being a lawyer, and now she's having to realise that you don't get to just do the good guys all the time. Although she'll probably make a speech about that.
Quite often on Coronation Street, the good guy solicitors, Imran or whoever, will generally represent the goodies, won't they? I'm sure there were stories where Imran didn't. Who was it?
Because people were moaning.
Did Imran represent Corrie?
People were moaning about it before, and it's like, if you want justice, you have to give people representation. Otherwise, you can have them called back to court or even have the whole thing.
Yeah.
Look at what happened to Tracy.
I know, exactly.
Got away with it.
Anyway, so Mason is kind of not too happy with the fact that it's a bit close to home, the representation of his brothers. So next up, he ends up looking like he goes over to Seb's garden. He doesn't bought those flowers. Too much of a rip-off. He goes over to Seb's garden, the memorial garden. It looks like he's going to nick a bunch of flowers there. He picks it up and he sees it's to Seb from Abby, and
calls him Kidder.
Calls him Kidder. Kidder was great. I don't think this was made up. Abby did used to say that, didn't she? I can totally picture Sally Carman saying that. But what I really like later on in the episode is that when Mason's there bleeding out on the floor, spoiler alert, she calls Mason Kidder as well.
I know.
It's like Abby and Mason have really had nothing to do with each other up until this point, particularly, have they? But the bond that they got in this episode, however short it was just like totally. Abby Webster can do no wrong. Sally Carman was utterly divine on Monday's episode. Performances all round were superb, wasn't they? Nobody did any less than their A game on Monday's episode. And when you get characters or actors like Sally Carman, who is already, I'm going to say, up there among the elite of current Corrie actors, you know you're in for a good time. But anyway, he's looking around, and then he decides to pinch a bit of heather, I think it was, from one of the planters. And what do you know? There's Abby just coming around the corner and has a bit of a word with him and says, "Do you know that? You know who this garden's about? It's my son. This is Seb." And he's like, "Oh yeah, Seb Franklin. We have an assembly about him every year." I would have thought that maybe he would have made that connection and known that somebody living nearby. Has he seen Abby up until this point? I suppose I just said that they didn't have anything to do with each other, but it seemed like he was just learning something that I thought that, considering he has an assembly about him every year at school, he might have realised before. I don't know. Do
you think they're going to change the assembly now?
Yeah, it's going to be the Seb and Mason show.
Yeah.
First week, don't go kicking. Next week, don't go stabbing.
And then kids will be like, "What can we do, for goodness sake?"
There's been so much.
You can shove each other.
There've been so many dramas and social issues on Coronation Streets over the years. The teachers at Weatherfield High have got all their assemblies wrapped up for the year.
Right, you can't be mean to each other either. You can't use hurty words.
This week we're doing the Kylie Platt assembly. Next it's a water safety, so it's the Joe McIntyre assembly.
No upskirting. No, that's another one.
None of that. We're going to do an Aaron assembly now. Aaron and Amy assembly this week. Don't go and do that. And we really don't want any of you to be serial killers. So we got the Richard Hillman assembly this week. I don't know.
I'm surprised they don't have school trips to the street, with all the kids there going.
They should, couldn't they? Like as a cautionary tale.
Don't live here.
Maybe don't do what any of these people here are doing.
Yeah, dispense with all of the warning assemblies and just have a do not live on Coronation Street, because we've worked out this is like the source of all crime.
Maybe that's how they could explain away the lack of extras in Coronation Street at the moment. It's people of Weatherfield have finally got the message and say, "I'm staying well clear of that place."
Yeah.
Anyway, Mason is suitably ashamed by this telling off from Abby, and he kind of slopes off.
But he does take the heather with him.
He does take the heather with him. He takes it to Betsy and presents it to her, but she's not interested. He's saying, "I'm going off to Germany. I'm not going to see you again. I just want to say I'm sorry." And she's still, very upset by knowing about the relationship that his brother had with her dead mum, i.e. they killed her. And she's like, "No, off you go then." She's I think she's kind of saved face a little bit here, isn't she? She doesn't want to back down, because she's not used to backing down. She's a bit of a scrapper, and when he kind of shuffles off, I think she gives a look to say, maybe it's not so bad, but oh well. Bet she's going to regret that, isn't she?
She will, yeah. He tells Sally that Betsy doesn't care about him.
Yeah. He tells Sally... all the main players of this week learn Mason's going to have a lovely life in Germany now, so they can be sad and regretful about it.
When he says, I'm leaving, I'm going to Germany, nobody went, why? I
think he just told him.
Why are you going to Germany?
Great place.
I know, well...
Cooking his carbonara, isn't he? He goes and tells the Windasses, well, Gary and Maria is there, and Gary's like, good.
Yeah.
And he tries to apologise to Liam as well. I'd forgotten where we were with the Mason and Liam friendship. I think maybe in the awards show we over-exaggerated the fact that they were mates again now.
They're not mates, they just like, Liam's like, I've drawn a line under it.
Yeah. And Liam... I quite, fair play to him. Mason saying, I'm sorry, and Liam doesn't respond and turns away.
Well, this is what I've said all along.
He is not obligated.
Yeah, victims don't have to forgive you.
No.
Like, as a society...
Restorative justice doesn't always work, and maybe if he hadn't got stabbed, he would have forgiven him properly eventually, but he was not entitled a sorry from Liam there.
Well, sorry, no, not sorry, but accepting.
Yeah, exactly. He has lunch with Sally and Tim, and he says about what went on with Abby there, and that kind of made him think about his own mum. I really liked the angle. It was tragic, wasn't it? The angle of his own mum. He mentions that a couple of times, and I never got to see her. That when he's I was on his way to the hospital when he was being stretchered through the corridors, and he was like saying, "I want my mum." Later on, that was really sad. That was so sad. It makes me wonder whether Mrs. Radcliffe is ever going to turn up, or whether she's just totally gone. But I thought that really was even more humanising for him. Maybe
you'll get some kind of parallel between her and Abby, because Abby is thinking a lot at the moment about being a mum. Because she lost Alfie for a bit this week. She's thinking about Seb, and she had a really bad history with her children. And maybe if Mrs. Radcliffe turns up and she's like Abby used to be, that might even send her off even more.
I wonder what Abby's reaction would be to seeing Mrs. Radcliffe.
She'll be like, I held your dying son in my arms and you're here off your head.
Yeah.
Probably.
I imagine that Mrs. Radcliffe is also a bit of a druggie. I mean, they could have a bit of a bond over it. I don't know.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
Well, didn't Gail bond with Callum's mum for a little bit? She was a teacher or something, wasn't she? Mrs. Logan. I don't know, maybe. I'm not expecting to see her. I wonder whether he'll even get...
There's a trial for the Radcliffes.
Yeah. Right? Oh, yeah, well, I guess there will be a trial, won't there? I wonder whether Mason's going to get a funeral even. If they just really want to wring out the grief from this storyline. Because they've got this in the palm of their hands at the moment. Yeah, don't get your flowers from Deb. He's right rip-off merchant. Anyway, he has his lunch with Sally and Tim, like I said. Then he goes to the precinct, talks to Dylan, and he's decided that he's getting a bit sentimental because he wants to get a box of photos from inside his house. And Dylan's, I think he's already proven to himself to be a bit of a lookout for Mason, hasn't he? Wasn't there something the other week when he looked out for him? And Dylan's like, yeah,
well,
okay.
Again? All right, fine.
Okay, but... so let's go and do this. We were discussing the other day about the possibly unlikelihood of somebody Mason's age having a box of printed out.
Yeah, we were like, hang on a minute, how many kids his age are like? What is he, 16?
I would not be surprised if Mason has never held an actual camera that takes photos
or a photo.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
How many kids have
actually hold a photo in their hand? A lovely glossy photo.
I don't know, maybe we're underestimating. Maybe Mrs. Radcliffe was like a fiend for...
I think maybe, well, I mean,
stuff out.
We can see from Summer that the Polaroids went through a phase of being, retro is cool, so maybe Mason had a...
Maybe it's full of incriminating evidence that she left on top of the bin.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, so they're going to head down there. They're at the top of the precinct at this point on the balcony up there. They go down, and what do you know, they run into the Radcliffe brothers down there. They've been released from the station, and then the chase ensues, and this is where the drama ramps right up. I love this. So they're chasing up around the top of the steps, they go around right to the end, and then Mason jumps over the edge of the balcony down, and this was great.
To the precinct.
I remember when they developed the precinct set, we were saying to each other, when's the first person going to fall off of that? Surely that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And fair play to them. It's been, 2 years, is it? The precinct has been there now, and this is the first time someone's been over the edge. So I liked that stunt.
Do you think in 10 years' time we can do a Patreon episode, like top 5 times somebody jumped over the side of the balcony in the precinct?
Ranked by how bust up their ankles were.
I mean,
I don't know whether you would have seen this on Instagram. They put a behind the scenes for that little bit. Did you watch this?
No.
So there was a stunt mason. I think this is the reason why they had...
That sounds like an old-fashioned job. Like a stonemason.
Yeah. I'm a member of the Stunt Mason Society. Did you say the stonemasons?
No.
The stunt masons.
No, we run into walls. We don't build them.
Yeah. But I think that's why they had Mason have his hood up for it, so that they could have Stunt Mason also with his hood up and not be obviously someone else. But yeah, they had a big crash mat down there. And
well, that's a good idea.
It wasn't that big of a fall, to be honest. I think I could have done that. I could have
You
been
are
Stunt
so
Mason.
full of it. You're so full of it.
It would have been fun.
You would have hurt yourself.
We all like... If you think we're going to be
40,
safe,
right?
jumping from a distance into a crash mat is kind of fun, isn't it? Like going into a ball pool or something. That's what I'd want to fall into.
You would... Okay, there probably is a reason why some people don't jump into ball pools.
Did they ask Luca, do you
know.
want to do this yourself? They wouldn't have had the insurance, would they?
No. He's like, you're all right. It's all right. It doesn't matter if your leg gets hurt because you're going to die. And he'd be like, sorry, what?
I liked the crack that you hear when he lands on the floor,
You're being
though.
just vicious.
It was like, oh, that's going to smart. That's going to hurt in the morning. If you can feel anything in the morning, I don't think you will be able to. And he kind of limps into Scally's alley there, doesn't he? Warner's in hot pursuit, and they actually do a bit more. They've been warning him for the last 3 months.
That's why we've changed their name from the Warner Brothers
to the Doers.
To the Doer Brothers, yeah.
It's not, doesn't have the same ring to it, does it? Anyway, so they go in there. Dylan comes in behind, and then this is where start to think, what's going on here then?
Yeah,
what happened? Because Dylan, almost immediately, you hear a scuffle inside. Then Dylan kind of legs it, and you think, oh, where's he going? And then you cut to a shot of a vent in Sean's flat, open, and the zombie knife bag where Dylan had been holding this deadly weapon is empty on the floor. I think the very first scene of Monday's episode actually was Liam looking into this vent, and I can't remember whether we knew that he'd hidden it in there.
I think we did.
Did we see him put him in there before? Did we? Apparently, and I completely forgot about this. Go back to the podcast 6 months if you want to check. Apparently, there was a scene back in August where he receives this mysterious package and we don't know what it is. I don't know. Can anyone enlighten us on that? But anyway, so it's like, okay, what's happened there? And at this point, I was like, he's going to be dead. I had seen a spoiler picture of him lying in the play park, or sitting in the play park with Abby going, help, help. But you've seen that one before this episode?
I don't think so.
So I knew that he wasn't going to stay in the alley, but I thought, he's toast now. So after the break, you got Mason, he's crawled to the play park, but he doesn't seem too bad.
No.
And I was like...
what's
going on here?
I was thinking, okay, so they're going to come back and stab him, I guess.
I thought, that's the only thing. This is so clever, and we've watched this episode a couple of times now.
It was
and even then, we've had to kind of read other people's interpretations of what went on in this bit to really get it.
I got it.
Should we kind of say now what we originally I kind of was I was very, very confused. I was utterly like, when's the bit where Abby's going to come along? I hadn't looked at the photo in detail with all the blood and everything, but I was like, what is happening here? Was that just were they trying to lead us off into one direction, and that was a fake picture for the episode, or what? But when we actually find out what it was, I think the initial reaction from me was, it was just a dream. Did you not think it was a dream the first time?
I thought it could have been a dream, but then I was like, I see what they've done.
Well, what would you like to explain what you think it is then? Because I honestly don't know whether everybody will have put the pieces together.
You're copying my answers.
I agree with you.
If this is a test,
I agree with you now, but it's not my initial reaction to it. And I know some people say, well, it's really confusing, but I like how it was up to interpretation. And there's even some bits with your theory that don't quite fit, unless people can explain it. But go on, what was this bit then, Gemma?
It's Corrie does sliding doors, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's what could have happened if they hadn't had a knife.
They did lay it on ever so slightly thick.
I'm going to say...
bringing knives to fights is bad.
I didn't 1,000,000% like Tim's speech at the end.
Was it because it was Tim?
No. And I thought about my bias and I examined it and I decided, no, it's not just because it's Tim.
Tim Bias is only one letter away from Timbits. Did you know that?
It doesn't sound similar though, does it?
Was it just as sweet? Yeah,
what are you talking about?
I don't know what I'm going on about. Yeah, so it was... what we see first, I think, is what would have happened had Dylan not got the knife. But what made it a little bit confusing was because the scene we'd seen before the break was the empty vent. So I wonder whether it would have been more obvious if... I don't need like a subtitle on the screen, subheading saying, and this is what actually happened. But the fact that they showed the empty vent kind of made me think, well, he did have the knife then.
Oh, I see.
And so then I was just a little bit confusing, but I'm gonna let him off because I really liked it.
To be honest, it doesn't really matter if you thought this part was a dream or not.
No,
it doesn't matter at all. It could have been, it didn't happen. Same as it wouldn't have happened if it was just. I mean, what was it? A vision of a future that didn't exist.
Yeah, my original was.
Who's imagining this?
My original thing. When Abby turns up and was like, oh, hang on a minute, was that he was there kind of dying in the play park and he was having a dream or he was imagining what could have been or this is my life flashing. But yeah,
we don't know.
No, don't know.
But this is what's non-linear storytelling, yeah.
Yeah, but don't do it all the time, Corrie. Anyway, so yeah, he's there and he's just kind of... No stab wound. He's just a bit. Phew, that was he had a cut on his left eye, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he phones Dylan up to say he's okay, and then Betsy turns up and she's like, and they kind of make up, and he's like, oh, I just had a bit of a run in with my brothers. I'll buy you a coffee if you like, and she's like, I'll go on then. So. Yeah, they make up.
When you watch this again the second time, it's really sad.
It really, really is sad. That either, is it his imagination of what would have happened, or just in the parallel universe that this couple that had a bit of a falling out over something fairly major, they would have made up, and it was really, really sad. And so they end up in the cafe, and Betsy tells Maria, who happens to be there, that the Radcliffes beat Mason up, and then they see that he's got a cut above his eye, and Sean's there, and Abby. Everyone happens to be in the cafe. That's how you know it's a dream.
Yeah.
Well, that's generally how Corrie works, isn't it? Everyone who needs to hear someone generally just happens to be there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, everyone's there, and they're like, oh, okay. So then he goes back to number 4 to the Metcalfe's house, and Sally's kind of tending to the wounds. And then we see that he's got a phone call from Liam, who is still down as Rat in his phone, which is the insult, the really the pre-watershed insult that all teenagers obviously call each other.
And this is when Mason kind of like goes, oh, I never changed his name on my phone, like.
There's so much.
He feels a bit regretful that he was such a dick.
Yeah, there's so much that you see.
An understatement.
There's so much that you see from Mason, kind of like regretting his behaviour and yeah, as I say, turning over a new leaf. So then and Liam's kind of hailing him to the precinct because he wants to have a talk. So this is another thing. This could have happened. Not only would you have got back with your girlfriend, not only would you have had Sally helping you out with your eye, but also you'd have made up with the person that you were terrorising. And Liam...
I mean, this feels like an idealised version, so maybe it is a dream because...
Yeah, you're right, actually. It's not saying... The message from this episode wasn't to the denizens of teens that were watching this, because everybody is the top show for the 15-year-olds age bracket.
Got into the top 10 at Christmas in the end.
It did in the end, didn't it? The consolidated figures. Anyway, the message for them wasn't, if you don't bring a knife to a fight, you're gonna get the girl. You're gonna have loads of friends. It wasn't like that. So maybe it was just like an idealised parallel universe.
I don't think it matters how you interpret it, particularly, because I think the message stays the same.
Oh, it was art, wasn't it? Corrie was art on Monday.
It's always art.
But anyway, Liam's kind of... Yes, it was idealised, but Liam's also kind of saying to him, I can't put this behind me. He wasn't like, I forgive you, everything's fine, let's go and play Xbox together. He's like, every time I get a notification on my phone, it makes me sick. I'm never going to forget it, how you made me feel. It's never going to be in the past, but you didn't kill me, so that's a start. And it makes me wonder if this was part of Mason's, dream or hallucinations or whatever you want to call them. Is that kind of his guilt? Is that the little bit inside him that thinks, even if Liam does talk to me, I've scarred him for life? And is it true? Is it true that Liam, every time he gets a message, feels that way?
Well,
I don't know, because that was fake Liam.
Well, another one, it kind of felt a bit like, if you imagine A Christmas Carol, when Scrooge gets visited by the ghosts, clearly that doesn't happen. Like, that takes place in some kind of parallel dimension where you can show people everything. Because he obviously wasn't walking around in the past and the future, was he? He was having a vision of some sort. So, whose vision is this?
I think he actually did a bit of time travelling.
Do you think so? Oh. Well, I don't think they had those time travellers back in the day.
Time travelling ghosts, yeah.
So this is this like some kind of vision of Liam, because it's not Liam's perspective, is it? It's not Mason's perspective necessarily. I don't know.
Nothing that happened there we can trust.
But
that
it's
is
more
totally
like a narrative,
non-canon.
But it's more like a narrative thing, kind of like Charles Dickens telling us, here's Liam. He'll never get over what Mason did.
Yeah.
But he didn't die. Tiny Tim did not die, and that's the start. Like it's the message there is very clear, isn't it? Once death ends everything, and this is what happens to Mason. He dies, and so his story will not continue to have any of these elements that could have happened in the future. That the fact that he said that wasn't just about Liam, was it? You didn't kill me. It was about what happens to Mason.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. There's lots of lines that kind of, if you look at knowing what actually happens, have got a slightly different meaning.
But you see what I mean? A lot of the language in this too is kind of theatrical in a sort of kind of melodramatic is the wrong word, but in that kind of Christmas Carol kind of way. I don't know whether it felt completely natural, some of it, but I kind of like that because it felt like it's a story.
Yeah.
And then that line that Mason says to Dylan, I'm sorry that you felt like you couldn't get rid, though, that's my bad. That's a kind of ambiguous sentence that becomes a refrain.
Yeah,
that doesn't necessarily mean the same thing every time you hear it.
No, it's so
clever, from that perspective, this is why it kind of like put me in mind of A Christmas Carol. Like you're having visions of something that didn't.
Yeah.
But unlike, he doesn't get a goose. His goose is cooked.
It is. So anyway, then the taxi. He has a bit of a swing with Dylan, and then the taxi pulls up. It's Tim.
Well, no, sorry, I did talk over that bit, but Liam walks off after saying that, and then Dylan comes and he says, "I'm sorry, I felt like you couldn't get rid, though. That's my bad." And he's talking about the zombie knife. So that's the clue. Then that's the clue that this didn't actually happen.
Well, I was still confused at the moment because we'd seen. The shots of the vent, because we'd seen the vent was open, I was still thinking at this point, so there was a knife, nobody got stabbed? Is he going to get stabbed later? Because he's still back in the park now.
But he says you couldn't get rid in the vision of him being alive. So that is contradictory, isn't it? Because he couldn't get rid of it, but in this version, he did get rid of it.
Yeah.
So this is him.
Well, the other scene, I'm just kind of skipping ahead a few minutes here, that did leave me a bit confused, is that when we're learning about this is what actually did happen, there's that same scene of the two of them sitting on the swing and Dylan is there crying. And I was thinking, what universe did that happen in? Nothing really. It was just a little bit psychedelic. Again, please, if you've got a better theory to explain that. Gemma, I think Gemma's had a brainwave. Go on.
In a Christmas Carol,
you're obsessed with this today.
There are ghosts, okay? One of the ghosts that visited Mason must have been Uncle Stephen, who laced everyone's drinks with LSD. So the whole time everyone's just tripping, and that's what happened. There we go. That's explained it all. You can always explain anything on Coronation Street. If you're a bit confused, just say it was LSD, and we'll just move on. Yeah. Just draw a line under it.
So Tim pulls up in his taxi. Mason goes off to Germany to have his lovely life. And we stop the episode there, and we just live happily ever after. We never watch Coronation Street again. And he gets in the car, and Abby's in the driving seat, and she's like going, "Are you all right?" And I was like,
"Oh no!"
At this moment, I was like, what's going on?
No.
Part of me, just for a split second, was like, does Abby work for streetcars? No, we'd seen Tim in the... What's going on?
No, she cleaned the cars at one point.
She did.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of is like, he's also shocked, and then he looks down, and then you can see the blood from his stomach, and he's got this deep bloody cut in his stomach. Chest area.
Abdomen.
Abdomen, exactly.
Abdomen.
And then we get the explanation. So we get the cut to Sean's flat. The first time, we kind of go back in time here, the first time that Mason sees that Dylan's got the zombie knife a couple of months ago, whenever it was. And Dylan puts the knife in the vent. And then you get this funny, fast-forwardy, time-passy thing.
Was this supposed to be the whole time or just one evening? I didn't get this.
It didn't work brilliantly if it was supposed to be the whole time, because Sean and Dylan are wearing the same clothes all the way through it.
I don't get it. What?
I think it was supposed to be fast forwarding that evening, and then there may be like one other costume change during it. I'm not sure.
Didn't need to.
I
don't get this.
At this point, I could totally see a good number of Coronation Streets, and again, you're perfectly allowed to think that, going, oh, here we go again. What they're doing now, this is stupid. Fast forwarding now. But I was so on the edge of my seat going, what on earth is happening? And yeah, time is passing. Sean's having a little buzz around the kitchen, isn't he? We cut to what's clearly a later time, because Dylan has got his change of clothes. He takes out the knife. Then you have this weird scene with them on the swings, and Dylan and Mason, and Dylan's crying. Then you cut back to the alley scene again, and this is where I guess this is what actually happened, because Dylan did bring the knife. So the Mason brothers, Radcliffe brothers, are beating the living daylights out of him, and he's there on the floor. Dylan runs in, and I know I shouldn't, but when Logan punched Dylan in the face, and it made a right good punching sound. It was kind
horrible.
Of funny.
That knife was so vicious and horrible. It looked like a
talon,
velociraptor. Wasn't it? Yeah, horrible thing.
But it was horrible just like Dylan walking in. He kind of holds the knife, like to say, leave him alone.
He holds the knife and he looks terrified.
Yeah, Liam McShane again. Everybody, absolutely. Yeah. Everybody was superb in this episode, and even Liam McShane, who I don't think he's had much chance to shine on Coronation Street yet. He's had some great stuff, but he's been so underused, hasn't he? He's been like back in the show for what, 3-4 years maybe, and then he kind of went away to London for a little bit, and they've just not quite given him the material. But I know that because he was doing other things in the time when he wasn't in Coronation Street, in between being a really young kid and then coming back, people have said this guy, this actor is absolutely incredible, and Monday's episode showed that to clearly he's a great talent, and he was holding this knife, clearly bricking it, and then Logan's just grabs it, bops him on the nose, and Dylan's like, and runs out, and
Dylan runs out,
and that's what we saw, isn't it?
Yeah, him run in and run out.
So in the time that we saw this scene, in the first instance, that was before the break, wasn't it? So that was before. So that was what actually happened.
Okay,
it doesn't matter
too much about that.
So that's what happens there. So back in the alley, Mason tries to escape. And Logan realises that, he's run into the knife, basically. So Logan didn't
do it on
stab.
purpose.
He did not stab his brother.
Just like that
purpose.
Lady in Chicago.
Yeah, he ran into my knife. He ran into my knife
10
times. Yeah, this was a squish moment here for Mason. And Logan, you can see the look in his face of like, bloody hell, what have I done?
Yeah.
And Matty's kind of suddenly realises what's happening as well. Logan drops the knife and then legs it.
Well, the knife gets put somewhere.
The knife gets put in a bin. I think they come back to it later.
Yeah.
Cut to Mason. He's bleeding out in the precinct. He's up against the swings. And then this is where we're going, I thought it was a dream. And then we hear Abby. So when he saw Abby in the taxi earlier and she was saying, are you all right?
Yeah, that means it was his dream.
It does mean it was a dream.
She broke through into that dream.
Yeah.
But it's still it's a parallel.
It's a mix between a dream and a vision and an alternative. Because you're right, he was kind of, he heard Abby in reality saying, you all right? And yeah, you're right, that went into the dream. In the alternate timeline of if Dylan hadn't brought the knife, he wouldn't have got into a taxi and Abby would have been there.
No.
So yeah, she happens to be there and she realises what's happened, and she's not done much heroing for a while, has she, Abby? But she knows what she needs to do if there's an emergency going on. Abby Franklin to the rescue, and she's such a fan.
I don't want to criticise too much here her heroism, but
he didn't survive.
She should have got in there a bit more. You know, you can't just put a scarf over the top of it.
She said on the phone she was pressing as hard as she could. But I don't know. Maybe she's been an arm day at the gym and she was feeling shaky. A little bit weak and shaky. Yeah.
I know, but she went on the outside of his jacket.
Yeah, she did. So she's going, help.
Well, this episode was about what not to do, not what to do. Like, what not to do, don't have a knife. It wasn't what to do if someone's got stabbed with a knife, because it didn't work, whatever anyone was trying to do.
That's so harsh. I think that Abby was doing the very best that she could. There was no slacking off for Abby as far as I'm concerned.
Wouldn't you have pulled him flat and then pulled up his top and put pressure directly onto the wound?
Who knows what... This is the thing. It's very easy to say that, watching somebody else picking apart their own first aid. But I think it's true that in real life...
Aren't you a first aider?
I am first aid
What would you have done in this situation?
The exact right thing is what I'd have done, obviously. But I totally don't blame Abby, who, as far as I know, has had no first aid training for not knowing exactly what to do. She was doing a good job.
The whole show is us making comments.
This is what this is. So after the break, she's on the phone to 999 because her yelling has not borne fruit. And she's got her hands covered in blood. And Gary comes along. Yes, he happens to be there as well. And he's there on the phone to the ambulance as Abby sees to Mason, and Mason is there. Oh. He's like, I'm gonna die. She says, no, come on, kiddo, you're gonna be okay. Oh gosh, she's so brilliant. Then we cut to the ambulance crew. Asha. We saw her last doing her job, I think, when Paul needed to go into hospital last year.
She's the Paddington Bear of Coronation Street. This is the second resident she's killed now.
But Paul didn't die that time. When Asha saved Paul, that was when he was fine. Both of them?
Oh. Really? I thought she came... Did she not come the second time?
I don't think she...
Was it the first time with Kit?
Yeah, I think it was. I
don't remember.
Yeah, so people have been... I've seen comments online kind of saying, oh yeah, she's a paramedic already, is she? She's barely been doing it 5 minutes.
Well, this is what I was just saying about Abby.
She's a student paramedic, isn't she? She's not fully trained yet. This is part of
You've got to train on the job, really.
Yeah, exactly. You can't kind of virtually become a paramedic.
Oh, no, I saw, when we watched Casualty at Christmas, they had a virtual... Do you remember? They had that big room with the volume wall. Do you remember that? And they had these two students and they were like working on somebody and they had a crowd in the background like walking around to distract them.
Oh, I didn't see that. Well, there's nothing like experience in the field. And I thought Asha was brilliant.
Asha's great.
I really loved how they made her seem 100% competent.
She's like this is such a great idea to have made it. When they said she's going to be a paramedic, I was like, oh God. Another person who's gonna
show up during an emergency. Yeah.
He's just gonna always anyway. But I totally buy her as she's got such a good personality for it as well because she's so level-headed and good in a crisis.
Yeah, there was no kind of hint of I'm really scared. I don't know what I'm doing.
Because it would have been really tempting. I mean, at some point this will happen where she'll be on a job and it'll be like, oh no, it's Ardy or it's Dev, or and she'll be tested and
or if she'll like have a flashback to the car crash during Coronation Street, or
I don't know if it's too tempting. I think it's too tempting for them not to do it that way.
Yeah, surely that will happen.
But at the moment, she's just doing so.
She was superb. She knew exactly what she needed to do. Even like at the hospital later when Mason's there on the stretcher and she's
burbles out all this. Yeah. All this
fair play to Tanisha for having to learn all of that.
He's got 52 cc's of toast with marmalade on the bottom of it, so we're gonna have to turn it over.
We got back to Paddington again.
Yeah.
She's out paramedicing somewhere else, isn't she? So once again they reused the street that a couple of weeks ago David was being homeless in, which is the same street as Joel. He just
walked around.
Okay, fine.
By a barrel on fire. Doesn't make you homeless.
So her and her paramedic team have been summoned to this road where apparently someone's had a heart attack, but there's nobody there, and they've kind of soon realised that it must be a hoax call. And then this is when they hear the reports that there's been a stabbing in Weatherfield Precinct. The one and only precinct in Weatherfield, clearly.
Well, how big do you think? Maybe they got loads in Weatherfield South.
Oh yeah, maybe.
I bet there's a fountain. To be fair to it, don't you think?
Oh yeah, probably. To be fair to it, the sign above the gate does say Weatherfield Precinct and not just a
How
Weatherfield
many precincts are there though? How many in any area? Because we've got precincts and there's only one in every area.
Yeah, but Weatherfield Precinct is a little dinky one.
It is a dinky one.
It's tiny, and I would imagine if in a town the size of Weatherfield, there might be others dotted around. But never mind, maybe this one got built first.
Aren't we we're just awful, aren't we?
We just wish we just complain and just
Why
criticise
doesn't Abby make him fat?
So anyway, this turns
into
something quite exciting on Wednesday's episode, that the fact that they've been called away to this hoax. So meanwhile, as well as this, Dylan's looking out of his flat window and he sees what's going on, rushes out, because he kind of legged it and hid, basically, after this fight, after he got duffed in the nose. Abby's trying to keep Mason conscious by talking to him. He is drifting, isn't he, at this point? He's losing it. He's going a bit pale, and he's saying, "Oh, I'm really sorry I stole the heather."
And he tries to give it back.
Oh gosh, he does, doesn't he? He tries to pull it out of his hoodie top. They were so pulling on the heartstrings. Everybody at this point. I haven't seen. Really I've seen a few, but very, very few people saying, "Tell you what, he deserved that. He terrorised Dylan."
Well.
And Liam, I've got no sympathy for him, and I think this is worth of a discussion as well. We might as well pause and do it now because we know what happens to him. Did Mason deserve to be redeemed? Is this a satisfying end to this story? Should we have, was this story saying, all bullies have got a good guy in them hidden somewhere, you just gotta give him a job at a Pakistani restaurant? I don't. Do you think that trying to get people to sympathise with someone who was clearly absolutely vile a year ago was the right move?
I think I've always had the same opinion, and that is that everyone should have a chance at redemption, but the victim is not responsible for forgiving them. And I said that the same thing about Alia when it came to Max and Lauren. And I say the same thing about Liam and Mason. And I think that's fair enough. I don't see how you can forgive somebody. And they always say, it's good for your soul to forgive people. I don't know if that's always true necessarily. I think
I'm generally quite a forgiving person.
I think some people say they forgive people, but I don't think they really do. I don't know, but
and of course, nobody is born a bully, are they?
Here we go.
Something has happened. We're doing our time traveling. Let's kill Hitler.
No. Oh, Hitler's the source of all evil. Yeah. I don't think so. But what I said before about Mason sort of became free of the influence of his brothers, and then he became a good person because they're the only reason why he's evil, and it was a bully. So what happened to them then?
Well, all three of them were clearly brought up in a bit of a dodgy environment.
But what happened to their parents then?
Yeah, exactly.
This is why I keep.
It's a who's the head vampire thing, isn't it?
Yeah, can't do this cop out of it was someone else's fault that I'm a miserable.
I think
bully.
Because me personally, I always try and forgive
you don't hold
somebody.
A grudge.
I'm not a grudge holder. So I don't have any problem thinking, oh yeah, Mason's a good guy. But I totally understand that there would be some people saying, no,
I think I even said it at the time.
Don't forgive him. There's characters on the show that are saying that they can't forgive Mason. It was his own fault. When
he came back from prison and he was homeless and he was living on the streets, I was like, why is he back where the kid he bullied lives? Why? He shouldn't have gone back there.
Yeah. Well, he did spend quite a lot of time.
If he hadn't gone back there, he'd still be alive. How about that then? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But maybe it was Stu and Jasmine's influence that helped him realise the error of his ways. I don't know. Would he have come to this? Would he have become a better guy if he hadn't have had that influence? Is it really? I mean, how can I sit here and say, oh, everyone should take responsibility for themselves, and it's not, you can't blame your upbringing or your situation and say that's why I'm a bully, because there's loads of kids that were treated like crap and they don't turn out to be bullies.
Yeah.
But then you can't say, oh well, he needed the influence doesn't count then. Because it does count. Obviously Stu had a good impact on him. So I do recognise that there's definitely an influence. It just does bother me because it feels a bit like Corrie's done this a couple of times now, and it is always with younger characters, because the same thing happened with Max. If the same thing hadn't happened with Max, I wouldn't be as kind of annoyed about the idea. But I obviously do understand that it does happen. I just sometimes do think it can be very frustrating when you are also a person from a similar background as the character. Like, anyone who was brought up like Mason, who's must be sitting there going, well, I didn't turn out to be a horrible bully. I didn't turn out, nearly drive someone to suicide. So why is that what is he... Yeah. Why is that the reason?
Nobody's experiences are exactly the same.
Everyone's different.
Yeah. It puts me in mind a little bit of that Red Dwarf episode, The Inquisitor, where the four crew are summoned by... Sorry for going off topic again, everybody. At least two of you listening to this must know what I'm talking about. Where this intergalactic being summons the four members of the Red Dwarf crew and says, I'm going to delete you from existence unless you can justify your existence. And some of them have a job of it and some of them don't. And then it's like, well, I'm going to delete you because you were programmed to do this, so you're not a good person. It's just your programming, and you are, and like that's Crichton. And then the cat, who couldn't really justify himself particularly well, but the Inquisitor lets him go because by his own standards, he was a good enough person, and it's very, very interesting. But yeah, I think we've said all we've got to say about this, so we'll move on to the action, which is, where are we in the notes? Swain at the station has just found out that the Radcliffe brothers have been let out, because she comes then to Kit and said, are the Radcliffes still in the cell? And Kit's like, no, we had to let them out. We haven't got anything against them. And Swain's terrified that these brothers are on the loose here. And also we learn that Betsy's not been in college today, so she's
because it's not just that these brothers killed Becky. It's that Swain knows that they know that she knows. Like, they literally taunted her with this. Yeah. And it does seem to have been blown into some kind of real vendetta that makes not a lot of sense, because I doubt that when they killed Becky, they did it in... It was always like, sold to us as kind of something that happened in the process of them trying to escape. Like, they did run her over on purpose to get rid of her, but it wasn't like they always hated her. But then, since then, what Matty said about her, it does sound like they had a vendetta.
It sounds like he's a bit proud of it, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he knew exactly who that woman was. But did he know, was it her reputation afterwards that came to him?
I would say it's more just, I ran over a cop, I ran over a pig.
Yeah, but then
my family have
always
said that they were the
enemy. But he knew her name, and he was like, he did just say something quite specific. Maybe...
We might have read about her in the papers.
I can imagine Matty and Logan being the sort of guys who have found out afterwards who this woman was, and then spent the rest of the time in pubs like boasting, going, yeah, it was us what done it, and like finding out all the details and going, she thought she was so great because she did this, she solved this crime and that crime, and she nicked you and she put my mate behind bars, and now I got her in the end. I can imagine that happening.
Totally. So meanwhile, again,
but it wasn't their fault though, because their parents were horrible.
Their upbringing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Betsy arrives at the precinct, finds out what's going on just as the ambulance arrives, and Asher and her mate jump out. Off they go to the rescue. Mason is looking pretty terrible at this point. Asher is doing her excellent paramedicing.
Yep.
Asked about what happened. Where's the knife? Dylan's not going to say. He's down there watching at this point, and he obviously knows. He knows that he is partly responsible for this. If he hadn't brought that knife, none of this would have happened. And he knows that he didn't do the stabbing. Is he feeling bad for Mason at this point? Is he more thinking about what effect this is going to have on him? Does he know? Is he realising that Mason isn't going to come out of this alive? Or at this point is he thinking, well, I'm sure he'll pull through you? You just got no idea. But
he had such good intentions, didn't he, with that knife?
He very understandably flees at this point.
When he ran in with that knife, he didn't think that someone might get stabbed.
Just protection,
but it feels like a sort of obvious outcome, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Maria finds out about it. She gets a call in the pub, and then she's obviously terrified that Liam was there when the stabbing took place. And Sean overhears it as well.
And so does Kevin, because
everyone finds out about it. Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, is this... we doing the photo now? Are we doing the photo now? We're all going to go?
We're all going to converge on the precinct together.
I've got my best outfit.
Sally Carmen's like, I'm going to have to put my hands in my pocket because I've got blood all over them.
And I'm cold.
Swain and Kit arrive at the precinct, and obviously Swain and Betsy are very relieved to see that they're all okay, and they give a big hug. Betsy's like, it's my fault.
She gets in the ambulance.
Yeah, she gets into the ambulance. She wants to be with her boyfriend. And Dylan, meanwhile, is punched on the floor crying of his flat. Again, very, very guilty for what happened here. We get Mason going into the through the ambulance journey. He's got his oxygen mask there. Betsy sobbing her heart out, while at the same time trying to say it's going to be okay. And this is where he does this, I want my mum. Maximum drama and tears that are ringing out of this scene. At the hospital, he's drifting in and out of consciousness. And again, at this point, it still wasn't 100% confirmed that he was going to die, was it? And I was thinking, is he not?
But
I went into the episode thinking he probably would be dead, and I was thinking,
But this is what This is the sort of thing that Corrie would have chickened out on. And I remember you talking to me about it before this episode and saying, do you think that Mason is going to live? And I was like, they better kill him. Not because I wanted Luke Dorland to not have a job anymore. Not because I didn't like Mason. But because I've said for years that consequences have to be a result of the storylines. And too many times Coronation Street has chickened out of truly giving us the consequences of people's actions.
Also,
so everything feels like it has there's no stakes.
So
involved.
often people in Coronation Street go to hospital with seemingly pretty bad injuries, and then they're out, the next episode skipping around, Toya after her operation last year, Carla after she got hit on the head. And I think if they'd have had Mason, stroll out of hospital on Thursday's episode, God, that was close, wasn't it? I hope you've learned a lesson, Dylan. Certainly have, Mason. I'm not going to carry a knife around now. End of story. That would have been so less impactful.
Yeah.
They had to kill him.
And I'm also going to say too that quite a few storylines we've had where a character has gone into hospital because of some kind of near fatal injury, but then has died a few days later, to kind of like ring maximum drama out, like Tina did,
and Charlotte Hoyle.
Well, also Sunita,
yes,
as well. But you never remember that bit. When you look back, you always think, oh, they died when,
You're right. You're absolutely right. Charlotte hit on the head by Snape. Tina pushed off by Rob, although self-defense apparently, according to Rob.
She was a harpy.
You remember
that as being when they died, like,
and this was great because it was all there together.
Yeah.
Where are we? He dies. He dies, and we know that because the screen fades to white.
That I didn't
like. That's his soul being cast to heaven. He's not going to hell because he was a good one the last week. So.
Right. Oh, yes, it would have been black or red if he'd gone to hell.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Ash is there going, he's run out of marmalade, and they hook him up and then...
I think I didn't actually write down what was actually wrong with him, but I think it was a case of the
what
knife.
What's wrong with him?
No, as in like what?
Ash should have said she said he punctured something.
I think it was his lung, maybe, and his
I don't know.
Doesn't matter. You get
poor
stabbed.
Asher has to
I'm
break
not going to be saying,
news.
but what am I dying of? Yeah. Asher has to go and break the news to Abby, was it?
Abby and Betsy.
Yeah, that's right. Those two are there, aren't they?
She walks down the corridor and she's obviously really down, and then she looks up and she sees them and she's like, oh God, I'm going to have to do this.
Yeah.
And she's so young.
Yeah. Is, you sign up to be a paramedic because you want to help people and you want to be on there on the front line, but having to break the news. And Betsy wasn't her friend.
I don't think you often have to do this as a paramedic because normally the doctors.
I guess so.
But this is still part of your job.
Yeah.
To be there in really traumatic circumstances.
A bit like saying I'm going to be a vet, so I'm going to cure all these fluffy animals.
I feel so sorry for vets.
Nope. So anyway, she breaks the news. Betsy and Abby burst into tears, or Betsy does at least, and gives Abby a hug.
Abby's like hugging people all episode with her hands in fists because she's covered in blood.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm not going to get dry cleaning bills on top of all this.
Then Swain turns up and she realises what's happened, and that was a really great moment. Vicky Myers kind of realising, oh my gosh, my daughter's boyfriend's died. This is the most tragic.
And she kind of has to compose herself because she's obviously in bits because her daughter's so sad, and she knows now because she remembers when Becky died.
Yeah,
she knows now all the terrible days and months ahead.
Yeah, now my daughter is going to have to suffer like I did. Yeah. Sean, meanwhile, gets home and he's heard. I don't think has he heard that he's dead at this point. I can't remember. We'll find out in a minute. He sobs with Dylan.
No, he doesn't know.
They have a hug.
He doesn't know yet.
Dylan explains what happened. Well, he kind of explains what happened.
Dylan
says there was a knife, and Sean's like, "Oh, they brought a knife." Of course, Sean's going to think that. Pause for a
you
second.
would never think it was
Pause
him.
for a second. I haven't complimented Anthony Cotton on his performance in this episode and Wednesdays and Fridays, I guess. But yeah, once again, I stand by. Give Anthony Cotton something dramatic to do. He's great.
He's really good. He's really good, and he doesn't get to do stuff like this.
Very
much. But more recently,
his dadding. I think bringing Liam back onto the show really has been Liam onto the show has really.
Dylan.
What did I say?
Liam again.
Dylan back onto the show
Liam.
has really been the making of Sean. Not that he needed making for me, because I've always loved Sean, but it's been really lovely to see lots of complimenting towards him. Yeah, he is.
It's a matter of opinion.
It's totally a matter of opinion. Totally.
I always think, it always seems to me when I'm watching something, I always think it's obvious to everybody and it's not an opinion or a subjective in any way how good someone is at acting. But then I read comments online, I'm like, I completely disagree. Like when people are saying, "Oh, this person's terrible at acting" or something, I'm like, I don't see it at all. I cannot see where you're getting that from.
And obviously, when you have actors like Jimmy Harkishan and Anthony Cotton that will go over the top sometimes,
very
flamboyantly, sometimes they take it too far. Jimmy clearly does.
Well, that's part of the charm of Dev.
There was that scene on Thursday that he just...
I know you said it already.
And Anthony Cotton clearly does. But also, when you're going to have a character actor who is very flamboyant with it, there will be people that will never like that. And
they pick up on some of the mannerisms and they just can't translate it into drama. But I'm the same with some people. I'm not going to say, because I don't see the benefit of talking about that.
Yeah. But yeah, I have got such a fondness and a soft spot for Sean, and my heart was breaking for him all week this week.
I kind of would really like a scene with Sean talking to somebody about how he missed out on so much of Dylan's life, and now he's got such a challenge here.
Yeah, picking up the pieces. Yeah,
because he's doing a really bloody good job for somebody who hasn't been a dad who's lived with his. Dad. He does.
Well, yeah, he didn't.
Well,
he was a distance dad. Wasn't
he was a long distance dad. He did. We were told he visited a lot of the times, but the fact that he's been living with his son and he hadn't for so long, and now I think he's done a really great job.
Yeah.
But
not completely uncommon for Coronation Street having children coming out the woodwork like Nick and Sam.
It's completely fine, and nobody has any adjustment periods or anything.
Anyway, Sean is...
Well, Dylan's panicking that Mason's going to die.
Yeah, because he's saying, I left him, he's going to die.
Looking after him.
Yeah, exactly. He sort of says, look, you just need to go to the police station, tell him what you just told me. And yeah, that's right. This is when Abby phones up Sean, and then they learn that Mason is no more.
Oh, it's
more
so
crying.
sad. It's really sad.
Kevin turns up at the hospital, and Abby tells him what happened. And
my God.
She's just distraught. She's like,
awful.
I was covered in blood. It was terrible. I kept thinking about Seb, and this is the tangent that her little journey takes for the rest of the week, that this has given her major Seb trauma.
It's PTSD.
Flashbacks. Yeah, absolutely. Even though she wasn't there as Seb was dying on the floor.
This is probably what the problem is, because she doesn't have... She's now projecting her memory of Mason onto what happened to Seb. She's filling in the blanks that she never knew about what Seb's final moments were.
But no, Seb didn't die out on the street.
Oh,
he died in hospital.
There you go.
And that
again,
exactly
you don't
proves
remember.
your point. Because remember
but that was really touching.
Do you remember that brilliant scene when she's in the hospital? It was COVID time, and she comes into the hospital corridor and collapses on the floor in just utter grief and agony. That was like one of the scenes of the year for me, one of the best performances of the year. But she wasn't there, cradling him in his blood. Yeah,
and they had the scene where she held his hand, but it was actually...
Harry was known his girlfriend's hand.
Because they couldn't touch because it was COVID.
Yeah. Anyway, so...
Yeah, that's funny, isn't it? Because that was really affecting those scenes with her in the hospital with Seb, and I just completely forgot that happened.
You just remember the kicking. Yeah. Anyway. David and Shona, meanwhile, remember them? Hitherto not used in this story, read the article online about it, and they're clearly worried and about their family's own safety after everything with their, they stole the money and everything. So he's worried that they're going to be after him. Gary and Maria later are having a bit of a think about it in speed dial. We're kind of finally coming down from the the high, is that the right word, of the episode now, and everyone's just having a bit of a think and a reflect and a monologue about what's going on. Gary, I quite like this. He was kind of saying that I never wanted this, so I hated Mason for what he did to Liam, but when I saw him like that, it all went. I thought that was a really, really important moment for Gary, actually.
Yes, you're right, yeah.
There's nobody that's kind of celebrating that he's dead. Some people have maybe saying that, he had it coming. Who was it that was saying, well, he was bound to... It was Tim, wasn't it? No, not Tim.
No, we'll talk about that because I'm sure you've written it down. It was the conversation during when it was coming out about the hoax call.
Oh, it was Kev, wasn't it?
Yes, it was
Kevin. Says he had it coming to him.
Such a horrible thing to say. It kind of reminds me of what Beth said when Aidan died.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, I know what thought process you've come to have decided that this is your opinion, and this isn't the time.
No, but it was good. I think Aidan's story maybe did it a little bit better so far, showing the varied reactions to everybody.
You're right about the varied reactions, but
because not everyone's going to say, "Oh, Mason."
I'm interested to know what Alia and Yasmin think.
Yeah.
About this, because
I mean, Yasmin.
We've
seen that because she breaks the news to. She's the one that breaks the news to them, isn't she? So, and she's obviously upset about it because Stu's upset about it.
Yes. He's
lost a chef.
Yeah, that's true. But Mason was the one who originally got the knife, wasn't he? He had a knife, or was it Dylan?
He had. It's not the same knife though.
Oh, okay. That's why
his knife is straight. This knife is curly.
Oh, okay. They're all zombie knives.
Not like a corkscrew, but as we said, talon-like. We were talking about with somebody else the other day about you don't want to be a chef on Coronation Street, don't you? Because it's the kiss of death, the chef's kiss of death, if you like. We've got Robert bleeding out on the street, being shot.
Got shot on Christmas. No one cared about him.
Don't say on Christmas.
At Christmas.
At Christmas. Americans say at Christmas. They're perfectly entitled to it.
I'm not, though. As soon as 1776 happened, we had to say at Christmas.
At Christmas. You got Zidane has just been banished to nowhere, but at least he's living. You got it was the other chefs that we were talking about.
Stu got battered about.
Yeah. There was another one. There's another really important chef that has had a horrible end to them.
Where's the Happy Eater?
Can't remember who it is.
Where's Happy Eater gone?
Not
He's
Betty.
Dead, isn't he?
Anyway, so they're all found out. Then you get this really brilliant Sally and Tim scene. You're right, the monologue felt to me ever so slightly, hey everybody, BAFTA, are you listening? Like they did when they had the Ken monologue not long after the Gale one, which everybody remembers. But I think, Sally and Joe did a fantastic performance in that scene, sort of just utterly empty with it, because they'd really grown to like this kid. He'd been living under their roof, in the past week or so, and it's massively hit them. And they're saying, what a waste it is. This kid just turned his life around. I like the bit where Tim's talking about, in my day, people just use their fists. It's kind of leaning into the fact that knife crime is on the rise. It's not like nobody stabbed each other when he was a kid. Sorry, Brian. But it's becoming a bigger and bigger issue, isn't it?
Well, I did read a comment that kind of ruined it for me a bit, and I agree. I kind of agree. I'm afraid that it does undermine a little. It's undermined a little bit by the fact that they're drawing parallels between this story and Seb's story, because Seb wasn't stabbed. Seb was beaten up.
Yeah.
So Tim's there saying, "Oh, if they'd only just beaten each other up, it would have all been fine." No, because that's why Seb's dead.
But he did say use your fists. And Seb did get a bit of a kicking.
Come on.
No, you're right. I think it was more, to me, it was more saying, people didn't try and kill each other. But maybe that's a bit rose tinted glasses. Maybe they did. They probably did.
This is beyond our pay grade again. And again, Coronation Street is good in a way because it's forcing people to think about things they never would have normally. But unfortunately for us, we're both stupid and don't really know what we're talking about. But, when you're talking about knife crime and stuff, the main point of this story is that Dylan was trying to protect himself and he caused it.
Yeah, this is the message.
This is what Kate Brooks said.
Don't carry a knife to protect yourself.
When she was talking about the story, she said it's somebody who brings a knife to protect themselves and they don't, they cause the issue.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I just wish Tim hadn't mentioned the fact that, it's all wholesome and stuff to have a fist fight, because but you can't stop kids from fighting each other. And also, a lot of the time, I don't think kids think about it when they've got a knife. They don't think about how much more vicious and violent an altercation is going to be once you have that knife. It's the same as a gun. We don't have guns in this country as much as America. We do have guns. I think people like to pretend that we don't. Legal as well as obviously illegal ones. But it's the same as if you have a gun in America, the person who's most likely to be shot by that gun is you. By a massive percentage. Yeah. It's the same with a knife. I wonder what the percentage of people who end up...
Yeah. Who knows? But the Corrie did trot out the usual statistics here of 80% increase in knife crime in the last decade. It opens my eyes to it.
We live in a
sheltered, privileged life here, don't we?
Well, we're not in the best area in the world, but we certainly. We don't have kids who we have to worry about.
We don't, and I don't worry about being jumped and stabbed, although I guess I could be. But also the other stats that they said were there were 225 murders between June 23 and June 24 that involved a knife or sharp instrument. 78 of those were under 25. Less than half. 10 were under 16. It really, really is. In a year, 10 under 16-year-olds murdered with a knife. I mean, murdered in any way.
I don't know what to do about it. And I think, they can make much legislation as they want about carrying a knife and stuff. I think they've kind of got to the limit of what they can really do without it starting to impact people who want a penknife or, at the allotment, I've always made jokes about the horry that we have, but that is a bloody vicious. You could kill somebody with that, and we have it all the time when we go to the allotment. Yeah, I would be kind of frustrated if those got banned, because it's not the fact that the knives exist; it's this culture that's been created of carrying it because you're hard. Or I need it to protect myself, and it's a vicious cycle, And I think
the more the baddies have got knives, the more people think I need to protect myself.
And that's kind of it's kind of a bit like what's happened in America, where I think you would make sense if you wanted a gun in America.
Yeah, Corrie knows that they're not going to change everybody's minds about this. It's not going to solve knife crime.
Oh, there was a 60% decrease in knife crime.
No, but I think it is. And it sounds twee to say it. It is true to say that if one person doesn't bring a knife and they would have ended up either being killed or having someone else killed, then it's done a job. It saved a life, and maybe this will save a life. Maybe this will save 5 lives. It's not going to say solve 225 lives in a year, but it's something. And I think
that it's kind of like what I was saying before about influencers, and I get tired of it's everyone else's fault, but. There's definitely influencers glamorizing this stuff in culture, and so if you can be part of a message that goes against that, I cannot see how you're doing any harm. And the thing about Coronation Street, I think that they didn't fall into, is that Corrie's got this massive reputation as being a granny's show, and it can be a bit silly, and definitely back in the day there were characters that you can't imagine being in this story. Can you imagine Derek and Mavis going, oh no, knife crime? Not really.
Or Reg Ellsworth coming around the corner lifting his glasses up in shock.
And people have criticised it for how many teenagers there are, and they're trying to attract teenagers. But think about how powerful that is to this audience. And they couldn't have really done this storyline if they hadn't have laid all their foundations. Not that I think this was all leading to that, but They've laid the foundations to make a sort of big cast of teen characters that you care about. And you had all the TikTokers who were, in love with Liam. Are they the kind of people that influence the culture And are they going to watch this storyline and be affected by it and go, it is a bit, a bit, we should discourage other... Is that going to help? Is that an influence? I don't know.
Also, would it have helped more when that story was bigger? I mean, I don't know. The stabbing story. Because it was about a year ago that TikTok, a little tiny corner of TikTok, was going crazy over this story. Do they still watch a year later?
No, my point it really is that Coronation Street has focused on younger characters, and without that influence, this could have felt a bit out of touch and a bit random. But because we've cared about these characters, and there's so many young characters on the show, and they've got so many complex storylines, it doesn't feel like your nan and granddad sitting you down to make sure you know not to have a knife. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they've done a good job of making it feel like they've got a leg to stand on here. Yeah. I don't think I'm explaining myself very well, but I think it's for all that we could say, I don't want the teen stuff in it or whatever. I don't think I mind it as much as some people do. And
it was interesting to me that I always just say how much I enjoyed the Asher, Ardy, Kelly kind of teen group, and I don't think the other teen groups have quite stood up to their standard in my heart yet. So, I'm not...
Asher never stabbed anyone, did she? No,
she didn't, did she? So, this had characters like Betsy, who, we've not been the biggest fan of. Mason, I've quite liked, but...
You're not supposed to be a massive fan of Betsy, though, because she's complicated. All these characters are very complicated.
And even like Dylan and Liam, I quite like them. But this story has absolutely showed that, if they get it absolutely right, you can take a group of characters that I quite like, and I just can't stop singing their praises because of how great they all did and how fantastic the story and everything was.
Yeah,
anyway,
I don't think this is going to have the same impact as something like Aiden's story had. But I also think that there's it's a completely different, set of circumstances, and steering the culture away from something like bringing a knife along.
Yeah.
It can't... At the end of the day, the worst thing that could happen is that nobody cares and nothing happens. It's not going to make people go, well, no, I will take a knife just because Corrie said I shouldn't.
No, exactly.
And of course, trying to help is never a bad thing.
No, and obviously the cynic will say, well, Coronation Street doesn't actually care about raising awareness. They just want to win the awards and get people talking about it. And it's not that they don't. Clearly they do. But I do believe that they feel that there's some kind of responsibility to... try and do something to prevent one person from going down a route that maybe they otherwise would have done.
There's power in this show. You can't deny that. There is power. They've got a voice.
Yeah.
And they use this voice to and we raise awareness. It sounds so twee and stupid now because it's
become a joke. We need a new word for it.
Joke. But this was powerful and it was entertaining. And I use the word entertaining and it sounds flippant, but it was like gripping and fascinating, and you couldn't tear your eyes away.
As soon as Monday's episode ended, I was like, I want to watch it again.
And there are loads of stuff in the last year where it's been a Rose awareness story, and it's been like,
yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to do that anyway, so I didn't really care. Whereas this, I don't. Like we just said, we've got no. Thankfully, thank God, nothing at all to do with anything like this, but it still gripped us, even though it's entirely irrelevant to our everyday life.
Yeah. I'm going to pass over the synopsising to you in just a minute, but yeah, Tim does his monologue.
A lot of people really like this monologue. I just want to be clear, but that's just me. It wasn't to do with the fact it's Tim, but I'm really glad that they've given Joe Deteen something like this to get his claws into, because he delivered it well.
He delivered it really, really well.
And too, because Tim and Sally been off the ball for so long.
But and everybody loves Tim and Sally, don't they? They're like one of the most beloved couples on the street at the moment, and to have them be so affected by it is just... it makes it feel all the more powerful.
Sally, back in the day when she was running for mayor and councillor, she knew knife crime was a bad thing.
She did. Knife crime was one of the things in her campaign video.
Yeah, nobody listened to her. Now look,
Yeah, if she'd have stayed mayor.
Honestly, if Sally had remembered
Knife crime.
If Sally had remembered this, she wouldn't have shut up about it all week, would she? She'd be like, I've said all along. I said, when my video had knife crime in it,
I need to find a clip of that now. I need to find a screenshot of her being angry about knife crime.
I think you've missed the boat there.
Maybe a little bit. Anyway, so as he monologues, as often happens in Coronation Street when they do these things, we get to see other characters and their end of day reactions. So Sean and Dylan get to the station. Dylan's about to say part of what happened the day.
Oh, the police station.
Police station, yeah. What are you thinking of? The radio station.
Well, no, I thought you meant the tram station.
Oh, no.
Because he tries to escape, doesn't he? And I was like, that didn't happen yet, did it?
You got David looking out the window being very worried because he worries that the Warners are after them. Sorry, we're not called that. The doers.
The doers.
The stabbers. The knifers. Abby's there looking at a photo of Seb. God. Sean gets home and finds the knife bag on the floor, which has also got a photo of Mason and Dylan inside, receiving a certificate for being SWATs or whatever.
And this was really bad. This was awful because you realise he's just a kid.
That was very much he's just a kid moment.
He's wearing his school uniform in that picture and he's dead.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, Luca Toolin is 20, nearly 21 now, isn't he? And I always struggled a little bit to believe that he was the age that he was supposed to be. But that scene at the end really did hit home. He was, the character was a school kid.
And I know this is not, I don't know if this is necessarily what you're supposed to get out of this. And I know that these are not sympathetic characters. But, I think also about Matty and Logan. They didn't bring that knife to this fight. And now Logan's killed his brother. And that's also, his life is ruined now. Mason's dead. Matty's life is ruined. Dylan's life is ruined because he brought that knife. Yeah. I don't think we're going to have a lot of sympathy for Matty and Logan, but I just kind of wanted to point out that if there is a knife in that situation and you pick it up...
I know. And I think hopefully the trial we're gonna see this trial on screen. Hopefully,
not that they're innocent.
They're not innocent, but he didn't
mean to kill him.
He didn't mean to kill him.
That's what's kind of boggling my mind a little bit because I don't know what to think about that.
Yeah, he was holding a knife in a threatening way whilst he and his brother were beating up his other brother, But
this is what I think is the point of this story.
Mason did run into the knife.
Is that nobody wanted that to happen.
No.
None of the people that were involved in this
It was a horrible, horrible accident.
And it's because their knife was there, and if it hadn't been there, Tim is right, it wouldn't have been...
Yeah.
But I just wish there wasn't that parallel between this and Seb, where... But, Corrie and the rest of them vindictively set out to viciously attack someone because they hated them. And this is a story where somebody dies... when nobody meant that to happen.
No. Obviously, they were terrorising him, and who knows what they would have done to David when they were there with their balaclavas
I'm sure
last
they wanted...
week. Yeah.
It was only a matter... I mean...
He did take the knife off of Dylan, which he didn't need to, but then did he do that in self-defence?
I would have taken the knife off Dylan as well.
Yeah, stop pointing that thing at me.
Somebody's pointing a knife at me. I'm not happy about it. I'll put that on the record.
So the episode ends with Sean having a cry, and we're all kind of feeling sad, but also just full of emotion because wow, what a great episode that was.
It was a brilliant episode.
It was brilliant, and I knew that it was going to be a special episode in inverted commas when I sat down to watch it, but I did not have a clue that it was going to be that good, that special, that impactful.
It was really
I just thought it was going to be Mason gets stabbed, don't have knives, kids.
I knew it would be sad.
So much more than that.
But I didn't expect some of the storytelling techniques, which I do think elevated it.
Storytelling techniques did, the script did, the performance did, the editing, everything came together just brilliantly.
I just think Corrie doesn't get the credit because they do so many of these for how good they can make these special weeks.
It kind of makes me wonder when the awards shows come along. Like if we're talking about, it's going to be a couple of months when the nominees for the British Soap Awards come along, assuming it's happening. What's going to be picked for episode of the year? Because you got this, and you've got the Paul perspective episode.
It'd be really sad if that just got buried.
Because it could now get buried because it's been that long ago, and that episode was so brilliant, in a different way. And if you had to say put them side by side to me now, which one was better? I don't think I could say. But I did see some people saying that this Monday's episode was one of the best episodes of Coronation Street they'd ever seen. So I think that counts for a lot. But yeah.
I know, and what a week, honestly, to be like Kate Brooks as the new producer. And we've talking a lot about her as the new producer more than we normally would talk about the producer. But it's because she's so new. And we promise we'll probably shut up about it soon enough.
She commented on one of our Instagram posts this week.
She did. But what a time, what whiplash it must be to be the producer at the moment, because you've got half of the commentary online is like, Corrie's dying, ITV's gonna cancel Coronation Street.
Coronation Street, a crisis, Coronation Street,
but then the people that are actually watching it, the show, going, this is brilliant. This is fantastic.
It's only temporary though, isn't it?
Well,
I'm sure that next week it'll go back to the usual.
What do you mean?
People moaning.
I don't know. I'm just saying. How do you respond to any of this?
I'm doing a good job.
Yeah, I think she is doing a good job.
I think she is, and it makes me wonder how this episode would have played out had Ian McLeod still been in charge, because this is clearly not completely Kate Brooks's baby. Well, if Luca knew that this was going to happen to him a year ago, that was nothing to do with Kate Brooks then. So although it wasn't her vision, it was her that brought it to life.
This is what I said about the difference between what it is and how it's shown.
Yeah.
And this is how it's shown was entirely down
It feels
to her.
like, her first major task. Yeah. And I think she had a bit of help from Verity with Joel's death. Her first big challenge was do this story, and she absolutely carried it off with aplomb.
I bloody will do it. How'd you like that then? Now he's dead.
And it was also pretty soon into her tenure as well, because Ian McLeod's, I think, first big thing was the factory roof collapse. And they got a couple of months in the post before he got to do that one. And not everybody was, though that didn't get wall-to-wall acclaim, did it?
So that was when the roof fell on Rana?
Yeah.
Okay. Because the roof also disappeared at one point.
No, it didn't collapse though, did it?
Yeah, no, it didn't. It went up.
Went up and out. Right. On to the next day. So that was the first day of the first story.
That's 2 hours worth of the podcast, and we've only done one day.
Well, that's how they know they've done a good job. We're not going to be talking too long about the Carla or the Evelyn storyline, I'm afraid to say.
We just don't have time, I'm sorry. So, this was really tragic because Wednesdays begins with Betsy leaving Mason a very soggy teddy as a memorial.
That's something to score the week out of.
Soggy teddies. And over at number 13, you get Abby like Lady Macbeth scrubbing blood out of her clothes in the sink.
Yeah.
And showing everyone the horror, the absolute horror.
Tell you what,
not the blood.
Mason, second biggest loss of the week.
R.I.P. Hilda and Stan serving hatch.
I was genuinely absolutely gutted to see that the serving hatch is gone.
With not even a comment. If they'd made a story out of it, fine. But they just bloody plastered it over it.
We had heard, and I don't know whether the people that told us wanted to know that they told us, that the serving hatch was gone. We didn't know when we'd see that the serving hatch... Sorry, this is not... It's big to us. It's big to us.
This is a deep cut fan thing.
Yeah. Look, this serving hatch was from a brilliant episode in 1971. You got to watch it. It's on YouTube.
We've got some clips.
We put some clips on our Twitter this week. But
I made that
almost the whole of the episode, it felt like, and I might be misremembering this, was about Stan putting together this serving hatch because he wanted to prove to Len Fairclough that he was handy. And that there's scenes of just banging sounds coming from number 13, and there's like people in the shop going, "What on earth is that?" And then you see that he's put this serving hatch together, and obviously there's various elements of humour in this. One, it's absolutely massive, and two, it connects the front room to the dining room, and throughout these scenes, Hilda saying to Stan, "Oh, why? How am I going to serve anything through it?" And it's again. I am not delivering this humour well, but it is a really, really fantastic episode. There's a scene at the end where Len... Who was it that's with Len? Is it Jerry or Ray? It's Ray, isn't it? Yeah. Come and see it, and they're actually quite impressed, although they make fun of it because of how big it is. And Stan's like, "Oh... You can tell that Stan's pleased with this massive serving hatch, can't you? He's like, "Oh, you can fit a tray. You got to fit a tray through it, see?" And they're like, "What, a train through it?" "No, I said a tray." And then they call down Hilda because they think that Hilda's going to hate it. And she comes down and she's so pleased with this. And I think that's like the pleasant sting in the tail. That's the pleasant joke at the end of it, the peasant punchline is that she thinks, in the same way that she loved her Muriel, and she thought this hideous piece of art on her back wall made her a cut above. Now she's got a serving hatch. She is so proud of this, and she stands in the front parlour, and then Ray, I think, says, "Oh, it's not a serving hatch after all. It's a picture frame for our Hilda."
And she looks through it like the Queen, doesn't she?
Yeah,
I love
brilliant.
Hilda.
It was so good. And it's been there all this time. They don't really make a thing about it. It's very rare that they have.
It's been blocked up for ages because that is technically. The kid's bedroom.
Yeah, it's Jack's bedroom at the moment. There were scenes.
And they've moved everything around in there too. They've moved the sofa.
They've had a bit of a rehaul in number 13. I can remember there was maybe some scenes in the early 2000s where maybe Sophie, whose room that was, opens it up and talks through to Kev and Sally. But on the whole, it was a bit of a what's this doing here? I don't know whether there's going to be a story reason for this to have happened and they need to not have a serving hatch there, or whether they just thought, let's get rid of the serving hatch. But I am glad that they at least acknowledged that there was a serving hatch there, because when I heard that they were getting rid of it, I worried that it would just be a wall was there and it would have just mysteriously vanished. At least they've got the plaster there to show that Kev's been doing a bit of DIY. They just didn't make a whole episode out of it like they did with Stan.
Yeah, the fact that they've got that plaster there is kind of like, look guys, shut up about it. We know it was her. Just deal with it.
It's not, obviously, I know we're spending way too long on this than we should do. It's not as iconic as things like the flying ducks or. It's more of
a thing that you know if you're a sort of big fan. Anyway.
If you're a big enough fan to listen to a Coronation Street podcast. Right. Anyway, goodbye.
So
R.I.P. the serving hatch.
Goodness. Abby is scrubbing the blood and Kevin's like, oh, let's go to the cafe. And she's like, no. This is the first time I've ever heard anybody on the street say we can't afford to go out for breakfast. She says it's too expensive, let's make food here. But she's obviously doesn't care. She's just completely in a spin about what she's seen and what the horrible memories it's bringing up. At the station, Kit and Craig are having a conversation about the case because they can't track down the brothers, but then they get a phone call that somebody has found in the bin something to do with the case. It turns out to be the knife, which has obviously been dumped.
I don't think yet we know how it got from the floor to the bin, but they must.
That the brothers put it.
Yeah, but they did drop it and then run off, didn't they? I thought so. Did they come back and get it? Is that going to play into it later?
It's weird that nobody looked straight away. And it's also weird that they would have been able to have hung around there.
Well, maybe they snuck in and got it when everyone was being distracted by Mason.
It really doesn't make any sense if you actually think about it, because he went straight from the alleyway to the precinct, and then he was only there for a short time before Abby turned up, and then everyone was in a kerfuffle, and then the police turned up eventually, and it only would have been when everyone was in a kerfuffle before the ambulance arrived that they would have had a chance to come and get it.
Yeah.
Because the police came and then they would have shut everything down, and they also would have known that was where the crime happened because there was blood everywhere.
Happy if they do explain it, but I'm not going to be
I don't think we need to worry about it.
Not going to complain. Look, I didn't get what we wanted with the Joel body bag, did we?
We have to just stop pretending that we're detectives. We have to leave it to Lisa and Kit.
It's hard. Yeah.
Okay, because we are obviously not cut out for this job. It's harder than it seems. For all the crap that the Weatherfield cops get, we are worse. So we'll let it go. So Dylan's reading a headline about this stabbing in his flat online, and Sean's coming in going, they found the knife, that's good, isn't it? And Dylan's looking worried, and they agree to take the day off together because he's just completely distraught, and Sean's kind of picking up on what's that he seems to be more worried than he should be. Like, why do you think the police are coming after you?
Yeah, he's panicking, isn't he? That every time he hears a noise, it's like, oh, they're come to get me.
Yeah, and then I think Sean says that the knife's going to have fingerprints all over it, which makes... Or is it Dylan?
I can't remember. My notes aren't clear.
But they're talking about that.
Yes.
Then in the cafe, Yasmin and Bernie and Glenda are there talking.
Maybe it's Dylan worried that his fingerprints are going to be on the knife.
It doesn't matter at this point.
Oh no, Dylan's not going to know. Doesn't matter.
Dylan knows that his fingerprints would be on it.
No. It was Sean. Dylan's worried that he's going to get in trouble for this.
Of course he is.
And Sean's saying, well, of course no one's going to blame you.
Oh, because the fingerprints will have...
the Radcliffe's fingerprints are on the...
And he's like, that's the problem, Dad.
Yes.
Right, so...
There we go.
Yasmin's telling Bernie and Glenda about Stu being sad, and Dev's there with Asher, who is just really upset about the fact that they got there too late because of this prank call. And if they hadn't have had this call distracting them, they could have arrived and helped Mason and he might have lived. And behind him, Joseph's sitting there like the dog with PTSD in that funny gif.
Yeah.
Like his eyes wide.
And this is the... now what we go on to on Wednesday's episode, and Monday's was fantastic because of all the drama and the non-linear storytelling or whatever, and I was thinking, what are they going to do on Wednesday, how are they going to follow it up? But is Joseph partly to blame for this angle was like really compelling for me, and we didn't see this even coming, which is stupid because we were wondering last week,
we literally
did, where are the pranks going to be going to next week? I don't really know. And then after the hoax call on Monday, we were saying, who could that be? I don't know. And then suddenly when they cut to Joseph, his eyes were wide. I think mine were wider, going, oh, it's so obvious. Oh my gosh, that's bad. I can't wait to see what happens here.
So, Abby is still scrubbing away and she's like dropping things and crying, and she's worried. She thinks that Kevin's thinking that she's going to start drinking and drugging again, and she just starts crying in his arms. Then we get Betsy at the station, and she's just been probably interviewed or something, and she wants to go to the hospital and see Mason and say sorry to him. And she tells Lisa that the teddy was the only thing there and nobody cares. And then she sort of says to her, like, I like him, I really, and then she stops and then she then confesses something.
She's talking. Yeah, Mum's saying that we're going to catch those.
And she
brothers.
said, "I never should have got involved with them."
Yeah.
And then this is like, how do you mean? What do you mean? And then this is when it all comes out about Carla, the fact that the factory was broken into because it was Betsy's mastermind idea to get them to break in, and so she's furious, and she's like. I kind of like how like Lisa does everything by the book because, you know, Kit's there to be the bent copper. I do think Lisa and Betsy get away with a lot of stuff that I don't think they would do.
Oh, totally.
Because she does a lot of renegade things. Like
letting Amy off.
And Betsy also, you know, tells her that she was involved and it turned out to be all right in the end.
Yes.
That
it was, wasn't it? It was fine in the end.
Broken into because of Betsy. So all this time they were hiding this for no real reason.
Yeah, that was a shame. That was no consequences, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And Lisa's like, I can't believe you engineered this. What's Carla going to say? Betsy's like, Carla knows already. Oh my goodness me. This story is obviously in here, even though it's part of the Carla story that we're going to do separately later.
Yeah, no, I know. It's
to do with Betsy though, isn't it?
It is. I mean, the Carla stuff I've put in that's more to do with the kidneys, and this isn't, although it kind of is.
Yeah, you're right.
But,
well, what can we do?
I made the decision that this was more to do with the stabbing than the Carla.
Okay. So, Dylan, is staring at the vent. This is like the Telltale Heart, wasn't it? He's looking at this vent. Sean comes home and he's going to play games with Dylan. He's like, I know all the games.
Yeah, he's having got a Switch session set
and there was
up,
a funny double entendre there about a game that Sean had played when he was a youth.
What's that?
Then there's the phone rings and then somebody posts something through the door and he's just jumping all over the place. And Sean's like, no one's going to hurt you. I won't let them. And then Dylan admits it, that this was his knife. He bought it for protection and now it's his fault that Mason's died. This whole week, right, was kind of a PSA about children ruining your life and their own life.
Is the actual message from this, don't have kids.
Don't involve yourself in children in any way at all, because you got Dylan bringing in a knife, you got Betsy getting somebody attacked in the factory, you've got Joseph phoning up, you got Mason getting himself involved in this stuff in the first place, you got the Radcliffe brothers being naughty people. The only person who's responsible is Asher.
Yeah. She's not a kid anymore. No.
It's obviously got to put them somewhere together and corral them.
I think that Jack's done something to warrant that serving hatch needing to be taken down. What's he done? Has he graffitied it? Has he?
Sounds. They want to soundproof that room for himself.
Yeah. He's reached that age, hasn't he?
Playing his computer really loudly.
He's playing his computer really, really loudly in his bedroom.
Right. So
Jack's got a Switch as well. I know that.
You're cool, like the
like
kids.
Me.
Right, so Sean's like, what do you mean, this knife? How do you know it wasn't someone else's knife, like Mason's? And Dylan's like, really sure. And then he's like, are you sure it wasn't you that stabbed him? And Dylan's like, no, I definitely would have remembered that. And then he says, you have to go to the police station and confess. And Dylan doesn't want to do that. He wants to escape. He wants to run away.
I love this stuff between Sean and Dylan on Wednesday, because I was getting Is Sean going along with him? Is he not? Is he? And poor Sean, and he is. I would say that he's got quite good morals, Sean.
Yeah.
As much as he can be a bit of a bitchy gossip.
I
think it would have been bad for his character if he hadn't done what he did.
The worst thing he ever did was get involved in an MLM.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Double glammy,
yeah.
Remember that?
Those were the days when that was the worst thing that was happening on Coronation Street. Right, so Joseph goes to the police station and there's like this big knives take lives picture. If only they had read this.
Yep.
He sees Kit, who is his uncle, let's not forget, and he tells him that he's the one who did the hoax call. And then Kit's like, oh,
I think it was in the synopsis and spoilers, what have you, for this week that this was going to happen.
Poor
and
kid.
I'm glad I didn't see it. I literally didn't know anything about this week other than, and I know it's a fairly big thing, Mason was going to get stabbed. Yeah. I really tried my hardest to stay away from spoilers, and I'm so glad I did. It made all the difference for me.
Right, so Kit chats with Joseph in the interview room, and he's like, he tells them that it was his idea, he did it by himself. He's crying, and Kit's like, you're not going to prison, you know, you didn't kill anybody. And Joseph is just upset because he knows that Gemma and Chesney are going to find out about this. Then we get the scene with Abby, Kevin, Tim and Sally in the cafe.
Yeah, this is the one where Kevin's saying,
well,
he was bound to end up like this. His type always do.
And that's really funny too, because I don't know, Kevin, they weren't rough really, were they, that family? But
no, the Websters weren't. The Seddons were.
Exactly. Like
Sally could have ended up like this if she'd not met
wasn't
him.
a girl. She could have been a knife crimer.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, so he's like, Abby's obviously triggered by this because her son was a victim, but it didn't bring it on himself, and she also watched this kid die. It's irrelevant to her whether it was his fault or not. And he kind of apologises because everyone kind of like immediately tells him to shut up.
Yeah.
Kit takes Joseph home and tells Gemma and Chesney, who were like, can't believe they've done this.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to private school.
Yeah, we send you to this place to try and avoid things like that.
And now you hang around with Hope outside of private school, and this is what's bringing you down.
Poor Gemma and Chesney.
So they immediately realise, you know, Chesney's like, this was Hope's idea, wasn't it? And again, this is fascinating because obviously Chesney, this is his niece.
Yeah.
So they go over to the cafe, to the garage.
The garage, yeah.
Where Fizz and Tyrone are having a nice domestic chat, and they have a go at Tyrone as well, and saying like, and then Abby and Kevin come along, and they all hear this news that it was Joseph and Hope who had made a prank call that meant the ambulance service couldn't arrive on time to save Mason's life, and Abby cannot believe this. And Kevin's obviously like furious, and they're thinking, his life could have been saved.
It feels like sometimes arguments and dramas and disagreements feel a bit contrived, but this didn't, and I'm glad that they went down this route.
This was definitely
everybody
how you would react.
Yeah, it was, and everyone was acting very in character, and it felt kind of natural that this was, apart from the whole, as I said earlier, Hope isn't really known for her pranks.
It
was engineered a little bit.
My point is that she's always been a mischievous.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that she'd done pranks, but this was totally within her personality. Right, so Kevin has a right go at Chesney and Gemma, and we also get a bit of Bernie trying to reassure Joseph it's not his fault, and he can't help but think about what Astrid said, that it was his fault, that now Mason is dead.
Did we say that earlier?
What?
The bit about Asher saying it was... Oh no, she hasn't blamed him completely yet, has she? She's just
say that later.
Yeah.
Sean is trying to prevent Dylan from running off, and Dylan's like, "Oh no, let's go together. Look, let's both leave." And Sean's like, "Okay, well I've got to go and get as much money as I can. You stay here, and I'll see you in a minute." And Dylan's like, "Brilliant, right? I'll do this, you do that." And Sean's like, "Oh dear."
I at this stage, I mean, you immediately said he's gone to tell the police, but in the seconds before you said that, I was thinking, "Oh come on, Sean, don't do this. Don't be silly. I don't want you out of the show, for one thing. I don't want you to disappear. I need to see your and Dylan's reactions and facing the music." But yeah, when you said he's gone to the police, I was like, "Oh, he is as well. Oh no, poor Dylan. He kind of needs to. Poor Sean, definitely poor Sean."
This was such a great
Dobbing
week
in
of
your
like
own child.
people doing things that they didn't realise that would have massive impacts, but also having to decide to do things that
which they knew would have a massive impact.
Really great. This is why it was a really great week.
Yeah.
Craig tells Kit at the first station that somebody with information about the stabbing, and this was a throwaway line that we didn't.
I don't think it was supposed to be, but we totally didn't pick up on the fact that it was Sean, but it makes total sense.
So Bernie finds Yasmin and Asha in the cafe, and she brings up the fact that Joseph is really upset about this, about what's happened. And this is when Asha finds out that it was him and Hope who'd made the call. And she's like, well, it is his fault in a way, isn't it? You know, the NHS is completely overworked. We haven't got enough money. We haven't got enough people. We haven't got enough time to do all of this stuff. And then someone like him comes along and they do these things. They know it was wrong. They did it anyway. And now someone's dead. I'm not going to absolve his
This is
conscience.
so well done. So, Gemma, you're in the bar at the Rover's Return right now.
I'll keep
Whose
my mouth
side
shut.
do you take here?
I'm just decided to keep my mouth shut unless I'm doing a podcast. I'm not on anyone's side.
No, okay.
I'm not on Joseph's side.
I hate the idea of saying that Joseph should feel to blame for this.
Right, but how old is he? He's
I don't know.
He's in
12, 13?
He's in year 9 or 8.
When did he start at Oak Hill? I can't remember.
Well, he's like you said. He, you know, what age is he?
Young
he is
teen.
well
Young
old
teen.
enough to know not to do this.
Just because he's got that cute little baby
I was
face.
completely thrown by how cute he is and young looking.
Will Flanagan did such a brilliant
and
job
also
on Wednesday.
Hope is
Loved
very.
him.
Both of them are very young looking for their age.
Yeah, they're both quite cherubic.
I don't think that that's wrong because I think like I've said before lots of times, some kids just look much younger than the other kids their same age. So initially I was very sympathetic. I still am a bit, and I feel bad for them. And I said this, and somebody made in our YouTube thing, and somebody made a comment like, "Oh, well, I don't feel sorry for them." I do feel sorry for Joseph and Hope. More so Joseph, because he's the only one we've really seen. Because this will haunt him for the rest of his life. He's ruined.
Joseph is 13.
He's ruined his life at the age of 13.
I don't know how you could ever forgive yourself. And as much as anybody says it's not your fault, it's not your fault. I just don't know how you can't. And it does make me wonder, are they going to go down the route of it affecting him in the long term? Or are they just going to have him be worried for a bit and then kind of...
Joseph is a child who feels things very deeply. And,
so
it doesn't feel right that you should be capable at the age of 13 of doing something with such awful consequences that has ended, and I don't like this idea that it's everyone else's fault except for the people that actually committed the crime. But he has got a certain portion of blame on him. Yeah. And I think they were far too old at 13 to be doing a prank call. I mean, when I was to the ambulance service, when I was I think younger than them, I did do a prank call. To what's the information line? What's that? 100 or something?
I don't know.
I phoned up. Yeah, there used to be a line that you could just call up for information or something.
The phone internet.
Yeah.
Maybe before we had Google.
I phoned up and I said, and the lady said, hello. And I said, what colour are your pants?
Did you?
Yeah. And she said...
You rebel.
She said, what? And I was like, oh my God. I put the phone down and I was like, that wasn't as funny as I thought.
You may have inadvertently caused somebody's death here, Gemma. What if somebody had found a kid bleeding to death in a precinct and they phoned up the information line to say, what do I do? I've just found somebody bleeding.
Yeah, help
and they
me.
got the engaged tone because I hope that's going to eat up at you now.
I thought it was the most hilarious idea before I did it. And then when I actually did it and her voice, she was just like, what? I was like, oh no. Oh no. And also I asked my mum this yesterday. When I was 5, I phoned 999.
Did you?
Yes. And my mum didn't know what I was doing, and then I suddenly go, Mummy, the lady on the phone wants to talk to you. And she's like, what? And then this woman's like, she's phoned 999, are you all right? And she's like, yes. And then the woman was like, just don't let her do it again. And I was like, well.
And have you?
No, I've never. There's been so many people who've died because I refused to phone 999 now. I think when I was 5, I thought, I knew that 999 obviously was a thing, and I thought I'd better practice so I know what to do when I need it. So I dialed it, and then it went through, and I was like, oh, there's a lady here, hello.
Good for you for knowing your numbers.
Thank God. But yes, at the age of 13,
yeah,
and But the consequences are so awful. It doesn't feel fault. Right because the stupid. It was such a stupid thing. But it had such awful consequences.
Who's to say that had the paramedics got there a bit earlier, or, another ambulance, that he would have stayed alive? But I think it's that what if that would eat at you. And I don't necessarily know that Coronation Street needed to raise an awareness of another thing, which is don't hoax calls ambulances.
I think I think everyone knows.
It's some great drama.
But what do you think?
What?
You asked me, what do I think about this Joseph and Hope here?
I think I'm probably on the same page as you. I think
it's tragedy.
It is. And maybe it's one of these... It might end up turning into one of these times where it turns into nothing. And maybe it was for the immediate rush of excitement that we got on Wednesday watching this, going, oh my God. Maybe it's going to be like, oh, it's turned into... It feels like kids on Coronation Street a bit more frequently these days are getting into doing really massive things for the break cliffhangers. Like when we found out that Jax was the one to set fire to Stefan Brent's office last year. And it's like, oh, what's this kid done? Oh, it's fine. It's fine. He just got however many hours slap on the wrist. Can
you imagine being sat there for an hour and the judge is like going...
and then it was nothing, and maybe it's going to be like that, but yeah, for the time being I enjoy the drama, and I think that it's not really his fault, but he should have known. He does deserve to be free.
It's so frustrating.
He needs to really, really reflect and not do that again, and if he does do it again, well, I'll throw the book at him.
Just the thought that this poor child, I do feel sorry for him, and I don't see why you can't say you feel sorry for people that have done something wrong. For the rest of his life, he's going to be haunted. I would be.
Watch out for ghostly reappearance of Mason in the future, then.
Why don't you phone 999? I think it's very interesting we haven't seen Hope at all.
Have we not? I thought that... No, they came to apologise to Abby, didn't
all right,
they? But I don't think Hope means it as much.
No, I kind of wanted a scene where Hope would be like, I don't care. So what?
I can't. Maybe when we get to the notes,
I kind of want Hope to be completely unrepentant about this because that's the sort of person she is.
It was just a laugh.
It's just a joke. It's not my fault the NHS isn't funded. I'm not a taxpayer, am I? Right. So Sean goes back to the flat and he's got the police with him, with Kit and his silent partner.
He did the right thing.
And he's like, he tries to sort of explain before the police come in, but he barely gets any words out before Dylan realises that he's been betrayed by his dad. And I think he kind of realises very quickly that this is kind of the only...
Well, Sean does come in looking very dramatic,
choice that Sean really had.
Yeah.
Because it would have just made it worse, but...
It would. You can't go on the run forever. It would have caught up with you, and then Sean would have got in huge trouble. Dylan would have got...
Look what happened to Todd. He ran away, he kidnapped Summer, he ran away, hid in a bush, attacked a policeman, came out with a
got into a bit of a trouble with a gay gangster.
Fine. That was fine in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, so...
Not worth taking the risk, though.
It might not have turned out as well for Dylan.
Right.
So, interview time. Sean is listening in. Dylan's got a lawyer. Kit is doing the interview. And he is explaining he didn't own up before. He was scared. That's why he had a knife. He thought that Mason's brothers would attack him. And Kit's like, well, didn't you give evidence against Mason at his trial? How am I supposed to think now that you're his friend after all of that? Yeah. Did Mason come after you and you pulled out a knife to defend yourself? So this is getting really confusing, isn't it? Because...
Well, it's not confusing. But it's like,
No. That's what I meant. The story is going to be twisted because there's reasonable enough evidence to, if you wanted to, accuse Dylan of actually being the one that killed Mason.
Yeah, I wonder what Kit thinks. I think he's doing the right thing as a policeman investigating this, because it would be a thing that you might think. It's a lead that you might
this kid turns up, right?
Twine that you might want to unpick.
He's got a vendetta against the bloke that's just been killed. And he turns up and says, oh, it was my knife, but I didn't do anything. Yeah. I just brought it to the fight. And you're like, oh, really? Okay. And you've been great friends since then. And what's Dylan supposed to say? Yeah, we were so great friends that we broke into flats together twice.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not going to admit that, is he? Anyway, yeah, you're right. Hope and Joseph apologise to Abby. I don't know why they're apologising to Abby and not Asher. But they do. And Abby's like...
Well, Abby has shown to be like...
Well, they need to apologise to everyone. They need to do an apology tour.
Yeah.
So she says, okay, but it's not like it's going to bring Seb back. Mason. She said the wrong word. And she sends them away. And Kevin's like, do you want to talk about it? And she's like, not really.
PTSD time.
Wow.
Post-Seb traumatic disorder. That's what that stands for.
Bernie and Dev kind of have a bit of an argument, don't they? Because Dev's taking Ash's side and Bernie's taking Joseph's side.
I forgot that there would be this. This was such
another really good
brilliant
example,
community links. Everything just fitted together so beautifully here. I totally forgot that.
Dev's Ash's dad, and he knows how much that's impacted her because she's got to deal with the fact she couldn't save him.
Yeah.
And now Bernie's saying, well, Joseph, he's a good lad. He just did one wrong thing, and who would have guessed it would have turned out like this? And Dev's like, well, what can we really do about that? Sally and Tim come in and they want to have a go at Bernie about Joseph, especially Sally. And Bernie's like, well, they didn't kill him. And Tim's like, well, they didn't really help him, did they? And then Bernie's annoyed because Dev doesn't defend her. I loved it. I loved all this. This was so fascinating. So, back in the interview room, Dylan's describing about the brothers going after Mason. And he said he ran in with the knife to try and scare them away. Logan grabbed it off of him. And he was the last one who had it in his hand. And the next thing he knew, he saw Mason's been stabbed because he'd run away. And Kit's like, well, why didn't you go back to see if he was all right? And Dylan's crying and said, I tried to phone him. I didn't know this had happened. And Sean's like, can we stop?
Yeah, Kit's asking, you ran away, but why didn't you come back? And it's not why didn't you go and check on him after he'd been stabbed? Because he did go and check after him after he knew that he'd been stabbed.
And then he ran away again.
Yeah.
Interview's over and Kit says to Dylan, you're being released on bail. And then Dylan's like, well, I'm going to go to prison, aren't I, no matter what? And the Kit's like, well, it's
not saying you're not.
Don't really care.
How much trouble should Dylan get into here? And is he able to? I don't know the legalities here, but if you provide a weapon that was used to kill somebody...
Well, it's the same as killing somebody, isn't it? In this country?
I don't know.
Well, listen, this is, again, not on a different level to what Joseph has done.
It just really doesn't feel
where you've done something so stupid and wrong.
It's
and ruined your life
so
and everyone else's
escalated.
Life. Yeah.
In terms of, Dylan is a lot older and he's got more legal responsibility. Yeah, although actually, I think I can't remember what the age is when you're criminally you're allowed.
Well, I think they make it up as they go along.
I think that Joseph has reached the age of criminal responsibility, but I do not know what can happen to Dylan here, and I don't want them to have a reason for them to get out of it. I don't know how they could, because he's literally confessed to doing it. So he's surely going to have the book thrown at him, isn't he? They're not going to say, well, you didn't kill him. He had a zombie knife. They're not allowed.
No.
He brought it to a fight.
Where did he buy it from?
Online.
I know, but,
Online.
Wow, somewhere, cut to another scene.
Zombie Bay.
A mother and a son there, they're packaging up the zombie knives on their kitchen table going, I hope we can raise enough money for your dad's cancer treatment. Yeah, I know we shouldn't be selling zombie knives, but it's the only way we can make a living. I hope nobody gets hurt though. Well, if they do, we'll just have to cross that bridge when we get to it.
Use it in the kitchen.
It's
or to dig up
simple
potatoes.
Family business, a zombie knife family business, and they had no idea the impact they would have.
I'd be kind of sad if Dylan leaves the show, because I'm enjoying seeing the father-son relationship between him and his dad, but I can't see at the moment how that can carry on.
Get out of it.
I don't know how they're going to get out of it. And at the end of the day, it was still Logan's fault. But like we said earlier, he didn't intend to stab
bring the
Mason.
knife there.
So, at the end of the day, who is more responsible, Dylan or Logan? I guess Logan, but it's a fine line, I'm going to say.
Well, this is why it's a fascinating storyline.
Yeah. Right, Thursday comes along there. It's a bit like, a totally massively inflated example.
Would you like to know something?
Yes, I would like to know something.
Correct. According to the Wirral Safeguarding Children Partnership, possession of a knife carries a prison sentence of up to 5 years, and it doesn't matter whether it's been used or how old you are, whether you're carrying it for your own protection or carrying it for someone else. But I don't know if that gets impacted more if the knife was killed somebody. So you're looking at, a minimum of 5 years just for the knife, just for having the knife.
I wonder whether we'll see Violet again.
She'd turn up and go, Sean, this. I know everyone's saying blaming Joseph. I just
went back to London for a few more months and look what's happened now.
And Dylan and Logan, but really it's your fault, isn't it? Because if you'd hadn't paid more attention and hadn't given him a debit card to buy things on the internet with, then none of this would have happened.
It kind of doesn't make sense that Violet wouldn't come for this.
Well, she came before. Maybe she's like, I already came for one. Look, I'll come to the next one.
She came and he was involved in that he was giving testimony in court, and this time he's now on the receiving end of, possibly something a little bit custodial. So she really, really should come.
Maybe it's time for Violet to die.
Yeah, just to explain away her absences, exactly. Right.
Or they could just get the actress to come back. I don't
They could. They really should.
It's up to them, really, what they want to do.
Get back Jenny Platt. They didn't use her well enough last year.
No, I don't think so. Maybe they brought her back
to test her out.
To bring so that we wouldn't to make it make sense, and she came again. I don't know.
I don't know. Thursday rolls round, and Shona.
Yes, it was Thursday, not Friday.
Yeah, so we got all the plans. Yeah, nice early episode. We were able to record early. It's only 7:15.
Still haven't had our dinner yet.
Still haven't had our tea yet. No, all recorded that spoiler cast. So Shona's telling Sarah that there's been more upset with her and David. He brought up Clayton again, and this little truce and agreement that they would try and put it all behind them has come crashing down. And David comes into the room. His ears have been burning, hasn't he? Yeah, and he's like he's very peeved.
Well, he's clearly he can't let it go. Obviously, he's upset about the brothers, and he's not really admitting it because no one knows that they're after him.
Do they not at this point?
Oh no, Gail found out, but did Shona and Sarah find out about this money that he's got? Or that the brothers are after him?
Can't remember.
I don't know, but he's obviously...
I think they must have done.
It was obviously his mind elsewhere, isn't it?
Yeah,
as well.
Well, also, he's remembering Kylie being stabbed. What happened to Mason is what happened to Kylie.
I do remember.
So no wonder he's thinking about Clayton. He's in his mind, Clayton is as bad as the Radcliffes.
Clayton is yeah. This kind of reminds me of that time we had that conversation with somebody who worked on Corrie, and they pointed out that every time there's a link between somebody and something that's happening, like so that characters had this experience in their lives before, they can't bring it up every time, and that if everybody remembered everything that ever happened, they'd all have PTSD. Yeah. And I definitely agree with that. But this is an example of when they use it for like a really good storytelling purposes, but it's only impactful because we rarely get this. If every single time anything ever happened, everybody had a grief circle and talked about when it happened to them last week or 2 years ago, it wouldn't be as interesting. But this is dragging up so many horrible memories.
Whose death was more traumatic, Kylie or Mason?
Kylie.
You reckon?
Yeah.
She's
just trying to get
more beloved character. Bloody handprints on Audrey's tree. David crying no screaming to the sky. But she didn't have a funny alternate reality. If only she'd decided to have fish and chips instead of doner kebab, she'd have been absolutely fine.
And whose fault is that? Dev's for putting on a really good deal for lunchtime.
Yeah, true.
Does he blame himself for it? No. He needs to be accountable.
Anyway, Sarah's telling David, you need to get your act together because Shona's trying to make peace with you and you're just throwing it back in her face.
Yeah, he's like, you could lose her if you're not careful.
Yeah. Sean, meanwhile, is trying to get somebody to reduce the damage that this whole debacle has put onto Dylan. So he asks Adam for his legal services, and he eventually does, doesn't he? But he tries to put it off at the beginning. Obviously, this is going to cause problems because Adam and Alia are a pair, and now Adam is on one side and Alia is on another side. I'm sure there will be drama there.
But just to remind everybody, they do not work for the same law firm, so that's why it's possible for them to work on the same case.
Yes.
To a certain extent.
But I'm sure it will cause tensions in the bedroom.
But surely you would not be able to do this. Maybe this could be in real life. Maybe Alia could say, I can't take this case anymore because my boyfriend's involved, and she's so junior. Really, she shouldn't. She should be the one that backs down.
Yeah,
but that won't happen.
We'll see. So they all go to Sean's flat for a bit of a legal chat, and Adam's like, lay my cards on the table here. It's not looking good for you, Dylan. Sorry.
He's like, I just asked ChatGPT and he's screwed. Yeah,
basically. Meanwhile, you got Dev and Bernie in the cafe. They're still not seeing eye to eye over how much to blame Joseph is for this whole thing. Fizz is saying to Ches, that's not fair that Hope's copping all the blame here. apparently, and apparently Joseph has got a youth caution.
Yeah, because according, as far as the police know, only Joseph was involved.
Yes. So Hope's not copping the blame here at all, is she?
Well, everyone's blaming her because they know what she's like, and everyone feels sorry for Joseph. Well, no, the discussion is going on, isn't it?
I don't remember. Maybe I was typing.
But Joseph is the one who's actually got the legal consequences.
Yes. But anyway, this was lovely, and we've said before that Jenny and Sam, who play Fizz and Chesney, are just brilliant together, and any kind of huggy, siblingy, bondingy moments are always heartwarming, and we got one there as well. You've also got the little side story here with Nina deciding that she wants to go with Betsy to lay some flowers for Mason, and not a whole lot happens there. It was just a kind of sobering scene, really, doesn't it? And as the episode goes on, more and more people are laying flowers for this little scally who died by the alley.
Oh my God.
And that was quite nice, really. Even Toya comes along for that, doesn't she?
She comes along she's like, is there drama? Can I save a child?
Yeah.
Is there a free child around?
So Bernie ends up making peace with Dev, and this was brilliant. I was waiting to see,
This was such a great week. What a great week.
Well, Thursday's episode wasn't as great, but... and it was good in terms of character drama. They couldn't keep the high adrenaline stuff going all week. It had to come down at some point. But the fact that at the end of the week we had this engagement between this lovely couple that I've really grown so fond of over the years, because I really wasn't sure about them at the beginning. And yeah, they basically forgive each other, and then Dev gives this lovely speech saying, like, basically amounting to, why don't you ask me to...
No. Why don't you...
Oh, do you want me... Sorry. Oh, yeah, that's right. He's like, oh, you kind of turned me down last time. And then, Bernie says, do you want to ask me again? And I think me and you looked at each other and I was like, oh, my gosh.
Okay, are they going to get married?
Engagements on Coronation Street are 10 a penny.
Yeah, they are.
Again, I did not know this was going to happen this week.
It's
so
like
I was thrilled for them.
The result is not guaranteed on Coronation Street.
I think
Do you think they're going to get married?
I
don't know that they will.
Oh, I really hope so.
I really want them to.
I'm really gunning for them to get married. Is it going to be, as grand a wedding as when he got married to Sunita, though? Is he going to be riding in on an elephant? Massive
Fanny would absolutely love that so much.
She would.
She'd be like, I'm having the elephant, Dev.
She's like, I've been looking through your wedding album, Dev, when you got married to Sunita. I don't want the bit where you get arrested at the end.
No, or the bit where she dies.
I'll have everything else. Although, to be fair, I wonder whether Bernie would want a Hindu wedding because it's a religious wedding, or would she just see?
The spectacle.
There's the spectacle and this is amazing. Look at all the colours. It's a bit like I'm tripping on something here.
This is like when I went to India and tried all those drugs. Yeah. Here's a question: can ITV afford an elephant?
I don't think that ITV can afford a Hindu wedding of any sort. I think I'm gonna say it's Bistro.
I think it's going to be a suit and bistro affair, but
maybe it'll be.
Well, no, look.
Bernie might like
Bernie is also flamboyant. Will she want to be blasted into space and get married in orbit?
I'm going to say that they might get married in Victoria Gardens.
They might.
That's going to be my prediction there, out in the nature.
Legally, you cannot get married outside in this country. It's not legally binding, but I don't think Bernie cares.
Oh no, they can have a ceremony there and then go off to the Weatherfield Town Hall, can't they?
Yeah.
But it's like when
I just know that not everyone lives in the UK and knows that you cannot get married outside.
Daniel and Sinead got married there, didn't they? Do you remember when Kirk officiated the ceremony? Ridiculous. And so I think they might. Bernie would be quite.
I think Bernie's going to have some unusual element. If I really want to see her get married, I love Dev and Bernie together. They're like one of my favourite couples.
Yeah, she's going to want something that's going to make it a little bit different.
Maybe she'll want another rave.
Maybe.
She's already used all her best ideas on Paul.
Yeah.
Anyway, they agree to get.
Yeah, they're going to get hitched. They're going to get spliced. So we've got Shona. Meanwhile, we cut to her in a car park, and it's a Freshco's car park, and the camera's panning around her, much the same way as it did when Joel was leaving a suicide note. But they didn't need the volume wall for this time because they just went out into the Corrie car park. And then what do you know? Who drives up and parks up next to them? But it's the Warner Brothers. They're there. Just they're on the run, but you need your supplies, don't you? You've got to stop at Freshco's. Yeah.
We can't go to the precinct to get sausage roll.
Bottle of UHT milk
from Rutland's. We've got to go to Freshco, they're not as good.
We can't. There's only 3 places where you can buy things in Weatherfield. There's Coronation Street and Victoria Street. There's Freshco's and there's the Precinct, and 2 of those are kind of out of. Nobody comes to Freshco's that often, do they? Well, what are the chances? Shona's there, and so she phones up Kit. And says about them, and he's like, "Well, you need to get away from this place. They're dangerous. I don't know whether they're still armed or what. Get the hell away from there." So he drives off in quite a hurry, and Sarah tells David, because he's kind of, what's he up to? She says, "Oh, he just got a call from Shona," and David immediately jumps to conclusions, thinking that there's something going on there, and sets off after him in hot pursuit.
He's got a different car. He used to have a red car, and now he's got a blue car.
I know what's happened to David's red car. That was the whole thing, wasn't it? During Joel's stories, he just fancied a change, or
maybe he just thought this was incriminating.
Was he just borrowing a spare one during the red car story? I don't know. Anyway, meanwhile, maybe they're a 2-car family. Maybe you shouldn't.
Oh, what?
Meanwhile, Abby's giving Dylan a bit of a lecture, and Dylan says, "Look, I know I deserve to be punished. I want to be punished." And then there's a bit of drama because Abby's realised that Alfie's gone missing. This is so many stories kind of bundled into one, isn't it? We'll come back to that a bit later.
Well, you did skip out on the bit where Abby's taking Alfie out into the park.
Oh yeah, I did
everyone's
skip that, didn't I?
laying flowers, and Adam is leaving Sean and Dylan's flat, and Abby's like having a go.
Yeah.
And this is when she finds out that it was Dylan's knife.
Correct. So back at Freshco's, you got Kit arriving at the car park. David pulls up after him, and he yells out, "Oh, get away from my wife!" just in time for the Radcliffes to hear him shouting and Scarpa. So Kit gives chase there, catches up with Matty over on Kitchener Street, or wherever it was supposed to be.
Breaks his arm.
Random road.
Or something.
He does a bit of a rough arrest, doesn't he? This is like an arrest from the 70s. It's like, "You're Nick, mate."
Yeah.
And
it's the Sweeney.
Brings him in. Yeah, exactly. So
when they do these scenes in the Freshco car park, which is the staff car park on Coronation Street, how many people have to park somewhere else? Because how many spaces do they take up?
Well, I can tell you from experience, because I saw that scene of Max being accosted by those teens from our balcony window that time.
No, I'm talking. Yeah, but this was in a car. They were in cars. They weren't filming in the car park. They were filming in cars in the car park.
Yeah, but all I saw was that
they're using up spaces, aren't they?
They were. But no,
I'm just making a joke.
I know, but I'm telling you, I'm giving you facts because people might want to know this. And they put, when I woke up that morning thinking, "Oh, I hope we get to see some filming from our long distance balcony," they put these little bits of tape up or barriers or something saying nobody can park here because they needed that room for the cameras to be in.
Yeah,
so
I know,
there was
but where
about 5
do
or
they
6.
park?
Well,
imagine coming to work and you're like a bit late and you're like, "Oh, for God's sake, they're going to do that bloody Radcliffe scene."
I'm sure they don't fill up every car park every
day.
They
do.
Don't worry.
You know they.
I know it gets quite full.
No, you know they fill up every space. We've seen it.
Have we?
Yes, there's never a spare space there.
Oh, okay, well, I don't know.
You have to go park at Media City car park.
You got to go and pay the Imperial War
Museum. And then have to go past
it's a bit expensive.
all the scary nerds who stand around outside and go, "Can I have a photo?"
Scary nerds like
me.
Which
is you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Meanwhile, you've got Abby. She's still mega panicking. She doesn't know where Alfie is. Doesn't want Dylan's help, obviously.
Well.
And eventually... it's because it's only a little drama.
You've missed that bit where...
What?
Abby gives Dylan a lecture, and then that's when she realises that Alfie's gone missing.
I'd said that before. I'm sure I said that.
Okay.
Oh, I did say that. Alfie's back anyway. If anyone's panicking about Alfie, Toya happens to have found him hiding behind a bin playing hide and seek. And that was a lovely little moment, but it soon gets turned back onto
Abby
Toya. Because Abby...
I
was thinking... Is that going to be the episode where she calls her out on what she heard on Christmas Day about...
Yeah, maybe this is why she was so hostile.
Yeah.
Because they did come to some kind of...
She drove Imran into the wall.
Begrudging, not necessarily friendship, but understanding.
They did post Imran, but they haven't had anything together since Abby found out on Christmas Day from Leanne that apparently she did it on purpose.
This is the love of her life son.
I'm hoping that Toya is going to be involved in this story now.
I can't see how. There's so much
add another
Abby
character
to work through if she's going to truly spiral about her memories of Seb. To then bring Imran in as well, it seems like more than
Gemma
is needed.
Toya is a trained counsellor. lest we forget. So she could help Abby out here. We'll see.
It didn't work though, did it? I'm sorry. I would not take any counselling off of a woman who couldn't put her emotions to one side long enough to not kill her husband by driving him to a wall.
Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong. Okay, so anyway, that mini drama over. Alfie is back, but when Abby has a go at Toya, she has a little bit of a woozy wonky cam moment, doesn't she? Again, we get effects every day this week. At the police station, Kit's telling Shona that they're interviewing Matty, but Logan, the real stabber, is still on the loose. So Shona's worried that because she knows that the Radcliffes knew that it was her who dobbed them in.
Yeah.
So Logan is now got two big reasons to absolutely hate the Platts. I wonder what form their vengeance might take on them. Betsy.
Maybe he's going to post like a frozen disc of Wii through their letterbox. I've heard that's a thing.
I think there could be more.
Because you put it through the letterbox and then it defrosts on their carpet and it
that's
smells.
Grim. That's horrible.
I know yeah.
And it's just the right weather for that as well at the moment, isn't it? It's
well,
blooming freezing.
Don't even
it's been
bother.
snowing up in Manchester in real life this week. Didn't see any of that in
doing
Corrie.
that to us because we got tiles. I just wipe it up. That's right.
Bernie and Dev, basically there's only a few more scenes with Bernie and Dev in the episode, and I think they amount to just being all loved up together.
Well, they tried to tell everybody, but nobody's interested. But they don't really care because they're so in love.
Well, yeah, Gemma's not interested because Ches has had his les money in. So because we've been wondering whether Ches had signed up for his £20,000, and he has, and it's come in. And so they all rush up to the pub excitedly. They've clearly not learned a lesson about being
just
careful
spend it immediately.
Yeah, just spend it all. It'll be gone by the time next week rolls around. Kevin gets home. He's worried about Abby because he's heard from Toya that she's not been herself recently, and she's worried about she's worried about Abby, and Abby's like, I don't need anyone's pity at the moment, especially not her. And Kev's like, okay, heads upstairs, don't want to get involved in this, love. You got Kit at number 8 later. Shona and David are worried that Logan's going to come after them, and Kit's like, I'm going to protect you. And he also tries to offer a handshake to David, which he is not interested in reciprocating.
This was so funny because, knowing what I know about Kit, I think that he was only doing it for show and not because he actually forgives or like.
Oh, no.
Like
he doesn't want to make up with
such
David.
A dick. He knew that David wouldn't do that, wouldn't shake his hand, so he's doing it on purpose to make David look bad.
Yeah, he just wants to aggravate him.
I just love Kit. He's such an asshole.
This is starting to make me wonder and worry a little bit more, because it doesn't take me much to get me worried about this, about whether things are going to start moving together again between Kit and Shona. God, I hope not.
Well, David's doing his best to make himself completely
I know, he's driving her into his arms, isn't he? Yeah, he's very resistible this suit, yeah. So we get a few more scenes.
And how much do you really think Kit is going to protect him?
Yeah.
I think Kit's the kind of guy who would, if he saw Logan kicking 7 shades out of David, he would just watch for a little bit and then.
I think he might watch for a little bit and then step in.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if whatever form of vengeance this takes,
but and
I think some of us know what that might be, then Kit may well be the one to do a bit of rescuing.
Yeah,
reluctant rescuing.
I don't think Kit is a bad cop. Like when he wants to do something, like he's not like every single day I'm gonna deliberately do the opposite of what.
How am I gonna bend the rules
like
today?
He does actually do stuff that he's supposed to do. He's not like a completely one-dimensional bad police officer, is he? Like he's done stuff before that's inconvenient to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I like him, because he's not such a massive. He's not like a clear villain.
Yeah.
He's just antagonistic.
Yeah. Couple of final scenes in the episode before we can finally talk about another story briefly. So we got, interestingly, George.
Nearly 3 hours.
Yeah, I know, it's fine. It's fine. People are loving it. George sees Sean and is being a bit stressed in the Rovers later because he drops a glass and he kind of sits him down, and Sean's clearly not coping.
Oh, Sean cries.
How could Sean be coping at this point? He says Abby's blaming Dylan for what happened. Dylan's going to get really in trouble, and George is like, he's going to be fine. So was Abby.
I liked the fact that he opened up to George.
Yeah, I thought that
and
was lovely.
He doesn't have anyone really. Who's his friend now? Eileen's never in it.
I mean, he's friends with some of the factory girls, isn't he?
I know, but it's nice that he's got.
It's good they've done this, but it was
him.
nice for George. Yeah. George is saying Abby's going to be fine, but Abby's not fine. She's having a final traumatic wonky cam experience outside Seb's garden later, where she goes and looks in, and there's the dead Mason come back to haunt her, offering her some heather, just to really screw her up some more. So look out. I'm kind of, in a way, I'm like, oh, but also I'm thinking Sally Carmen's going to be great next week.
If there is such a thing as unlucky Heather, it is that.
That is unlucky Heather, you're right.
You don't take that.
Very unlucky Heather. So there we go. That was that story for a week. And for a story that, like we said at the very beginning of this, when we heard about it, I was like, okay, knife story, whatever. I thought we had that last year. How wrong I was. That was superb. And I think what really helped as well was that I didn't know anything. Apart from, I mean, there'd be some people that are listening that wouldn't even know that Mason was going to get stabbed. We actually, last week on the podcast, we gave a bit too much of a hint that this might happen, and then I ended up taking it out of the episode, didn't I?
What did we say?
We were just like saying, oh, everything's looking great for Mason. Oh, I wonder I'm sure he's gonna go off to Germany and everything's gonna be fine and nothing's gonna go wrong for him on Monday.
But that wasn't a hint, because that's the point of the show. You know, when somebody says, oh, I'm going away for a happy time, you know there's a 50% chance they're going to get stabbed to death in an alleyway.
I worried that we were saying in a bit too much of a knowing way. But yeah, apart from that, I had no spoilers. I'm really glad that I was able to stay off social media on Monday, because apparently, you know, from 7 a.m. onwards, there were spoilers aplenty, and I really feel bad for anyone that had that spoiled for them, because it would have... You know, the impact would have by far been less.
Okay, when apparently this is why I'm getting concerned about spoilers and the future of the show, and what, you know, how can we really carry on like not being spoiler free? Because like, number one, I think it's detrimental to our growth, and I don't want to ever alienate the listeners that we have, and that's why we've never gone for spoilers, because you guys have followed us for over 10 years, and I would hate to kind of betray you by doing spoilers. But, like, for example, now that the Corrie's on at 7 o'clock in the morning, everyone knows. And not only that, but on ITVX, they used a picture of Mason sitting there dying as their picture for the episode.
I know.
So what are you... I mean, there's always been a tension between what we want as viewers, which is to not be spoiled, and what Corrie wants, which is, I don't care, just watch it.
And they want to tease you. I mean, that was a great picture if you want to entice somebody to watch.
You're like, what the hell's happened there?
Come on.
What's happened there?
Nothing.
Did it make more people watch it? Probably.
All I'm going to say is
but
not as bad. But it definitely
ruined it for at least one person, because they said it on Facebook.
Yeah, not as bad as when they used to show clips of the episode over the ITV ident.
Yes, they did.
They used to have, here's a clip of what we're literally just about to show you. Yeah. And quite often it'd be a clip from right near the end of the episode. Oh, I hated that. Oh, man, that was dreadful. I'm glad that didn't stay there for long. But what a stupid idea that was.
Yeah, but, you know, and also trigger warnings at the beginning, which I understand. I know there's more debate about whether they're useful now than there was before.
Well, they're meaningless now, aren't they? Because it's every time.
Well, some people find them useful. They're actually harmful to other people. So whether they're beneficial on the whole is up in the air, I think. But when Coronation Street starts an episode going... with scenes of stabbing and confusion.
They don't locally go to that much detail.
And now on ITV is Coronation Street with some non-linear storytelling.
that they should. They totally should do that. Although that would put people off, and I don't think
What's non-linear storytelling? I don't understand a word you just said.
Anyway,
right.
That was that story. But a few other things happened this week as well, which we can run through. We got Carla, we got Evelyn. It's not lots.
About. Okay, so Carla.
She's in the wars, isn't she? Sepsis. And Bobby's around. It's like the double whammy.
They're leaning in now to Bobby being a pain in the arse, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which I hope gives. Yeah, I feel bad for Jack.
It feels like they are in the same way that they are to Craig at the police station.
They did this with someone else, and I can't remember who it was. Oh, it was Kate. Kate being a completely oblivious single
brat,
single child energy, only child energy, even though she had siblings. Anyway.
Yeah, Bobby was a total gooseberry at various points this week.
He's just eating all
their sweets, wasn't he?
What was it?
Jelly beans.
Jelly babies, I think they were.
Oh, okay.
Horrible. You eat them. I don't like them.
They're nice.
They're horrible.
Oh, nice and Nice and floury.
No.
Whatever it is.
They've got such a weird texture. I don't like their jellyish.
If anyone wants to buy Gemma sweets, fruit pastels is the way to go. Just saying.
Absolutely love fruit pastels. I will eat bags of them. Don't get me any. I will kill myself.
I've been, the fruit pastels that we took on our drive
with sugar.
When we went up, where did we go? Where did we buy those fruit pastels for? Was that to go to my dad's, or was it? They've been sitting in the car for a little while, and I have finished them off this week.
Have you? Well, yeah. Don't worry, I've got a bag of red and.
You got a bag of red and purple ones. They're the best ones.
They're the best ones.
Anyway,
but Michael, I buy those sometimes, but I buy the normal bags with the orange and the greens because I think, we got to be in touch with our roots, haven't we? Like our ancestors, they lived in caves and they had to strive for their meals. And I feel like when I eat a green pastel, it's like being in touch with my ancestors who had to, work.
They had to endure
suffering.
The green fruit pastels to get a few reds.
Yeah, I feel like human nature, you have to balance it out. So I'm happy to eat a green pastel every now and then. Anyway.
The thing is, though, you've got it's green, orange, yellow, red, purple. So it's a 2 in 5 chance that you're going to get a nice one. That's not the best odds.
I don't mind the yellows and the oranges. They're not as good as the purples and the reds, but they're not as bad as the green.
Purples and the reds are clearly infinitesimally superior.
Right.
In a bag of fruit pastels.
It's like
in Skittles. Green and the red. The purple and the reds are the best.
Why is there always a green one in everything that tastes like crap? Okay, sorry. We're talking about Carla.
Can't believe your lime slander here.
I love lime. Right, shut up. Okay, we're not talking about that. Wednesday, Carla has found out that she might need a transplant. So she tells everybody, and Bobby says he's going to get tested. And Lisa then comes in to confront Carla about the whole Betsy knew about the factory stuff and so did Carla. And she's saying, why did you keep it a secret? And Carla's saying, I was trying to keep Betsy out of trouble and I didn't want you to worry.
You're a bit stressed at work, love.
And then and she's like, are we okay? And she looks so vulnerable and sad and ill and she's in a hospital bed like, oh, have I messed
Carla's
up?
Carla's always in a hospital bed for one thing or another.
That's right. But instead of, having an argument with her, Lisa kisses her on the head.
Which Bobby hilariously walks in on.
But it was sweet.
Whoops. Yeah, it was sweet. And then Bobby comes in and ruins it by going, oh, should I have done a dramatic cough?
Is he the Poochie of this show?
Yes, he is. No, Poochie was somewhat cool.
Who's the one? Do you remember in Married with Children that child that appeared?
Yeah, I do remember
and then they got rid of him after a year.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's that. So
a year is up. Just saying.
No, look. They really can turn Bobby around. My criticism is not of Jack Carroll, not even of Bobby, because I do think there's a place for this character. I find him every time he's used. I think they've used him in a way that makes him unintentionally irritating, but I think they're leaning into it, which is fine.
I actually did enjoy what we had on Thursday's episode where it wasn't him trying to crack jokes. The fact when Rob turns up, or when he turns up at Rob. So
I just don't.
Maybe we'll like him more.
I think maybe I'm liking how annoyed I find him now. I think as long as it's a joke, I'm happy to be finding him annoying in a kind of funny way.
Because everyone else is finding him annoying as well.
Yeah, we're kind of joining together as like a community of Bobby haters.
But that's what they're doing with Craig, another Bobby.
Craig and Bobby should be roommates.
Bobby is his job, isn't he?
Yes.
The local Bobby.
That would be a great scene with them, wouldn't it? That would be a joke that, look, you're Bobby, you're the Bobby of the podcast, because you come up with stupid jokes all the time.
Oh my gosh, I am, aren't I?
Yeah. I'm Carla because I'm sexy and I'm in hospital more than you are.
Yeah.
Right,
you've had stuff whipped out of you in the
hospital. I know, I was looking at my phone going, oh yeah, I was in hospital this time last year.
Were you?
Yeah, when I had my brain problem.
I don't remember that.
I do. Anyway.
That's bad.
Lisa
husband.
goes to... Oh, she's gone to confront and Bobby's come in. And also Bobby does this thing where he like salutes Lisa.
Oh
like,
my gosh,
what did he say?
He's like,
officer or something.
Yes,
and
he
she's
did.
like, at ease, you stupid.
Oh my gosh. I cringe every time.
I kind of like the cringe. It's Bobby's the green pastel.
Bobby is the green fruit pastel of Coronation Street.
Because you have to appreciate his presence. It makes the purple and the red ones even more delicious.
Yeah, are the purple and the red ones Carla and Lisa?
Yeah, why not?
I think so.
So, Bobby is with Carla, but he gets a phone call and he goes and takes it outside. And we don't know what that's about. Then we get Lisa and Betsy having dinner at the bistro, and Betsy is still grieving, and but Lisa has to tell her that she's told her superiors about the factory attack. She's going to have to go and tell them what happened. And Betsy's like, at this point, I'm just so upset. I can't feel anything, and she's crying. Really great.
Sydney Madden's doing really, really good this week.
She is great. So the doctor comes in and tells her.
This is the next day.
Oh, wait, Thursday.
This is Thursday.
Tells Carla that it's just the kidney has got severe damage. You're probably going to need a transplant. Prepare yourself.
We're going to give you some hemofiltration and hemodialysis. Huh?
Thank you.
I wrote
Doctor,
it down.
yeah.
I haven't spelled it right. It's got wriggly underline in red on my notes, so I gave it a best shot.
Well, Bobby's like, keep your chin up, and then he goes.
He doesn't say keep your chin up, but he basically.
He's like, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Then we see him dropped off at the prison. He's getting a phone call from Ryan. He ignores it. He's on a mission. He goes in. What's he there to do? We'll find out in a minute.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Lisa and Betsy, Ryan's telling them about the fact that Carla's going to need a kidney, which is weird. I don't know why. Why didn't Carla just text her? But anyway, Lisa's going to go in together.
She doesn't want to make a fuss, though.
Betsy,
she did the other week, did she?
This is when Betsy goes with Nina, so Lisa goes by herself. And she goes to Carla's side, holds her hand. Carla then tells her a little bit about Aidan and the fact that this is his kidney and how great a guy he was, and he's dead now, and she's scared. She doesn't know what's going to happen to her. Then we get to see Bobby. And where has he gone? He's at the prison.
Highfield prison.
Who's he seeing? He sits down waiting at the visiting table, and who comes in?
Only Donovan.
Donovan
He's
as
back.
I live and breathe. He sits down. Hello, son, he says.
So we last saw Rob Donovan in 2017. I think that was when he was on the run from prison, and it was all mixed up in the Who Pushed Ken story, and Tracy was harbouring him.
Yeah.
Before that, I think we'd also seen him when he was responsible, I think, for Aidan and Kate finding out that Johnny was Carla's dad. So he's been in prison for 10 years, which is quite, a long stretch. He did have a little escape, but it's been a while since we've seen him still, and wasn't it great?
I love seeing him again.
I loved it as well.
He's great. He's a great character.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think anybody could have loved seeing him as much as We Love Kate Ford fans did on Twitter. But I was very happy to see him again, but I think because of my happiness to see him, I kind of forgot that he could be a bit of a git.
I completely was. Sometimes when you know something's going to happen and it's like a secret and then it happens, you're just so overwhelmed at the fact it's happened that you forget to actually watch what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
And I feel a bit like that about this scene.
Yeah.
Because I was like, we knew this was going to happen.
We've known that this was going to happen for about 2 months now, because this was also revealed at the Coronation Street press day. So I know there were rumours kind of circulating around and in kind of late December, and
yeah,
I think
it got spoiled.
It got spoiled because I think one of the TV guides was at the Virgin TV guide or something. No. It was subscribers to TV Times magazine, or one of them, TV Choice, got it early, and that had pictures in it. And then it was officially announced on the 27th of December. But we've known since early November when we went to the press day.
How did they not know that there was an embargo on that? It's so annoying.
I know. What can you do? But yeah, so we've kept the secret. It's been quite cool having it as a little secret, but not as cool as the moment when it was revealed to us. And this was in the press conference.
Are we going to do this in the spoiler cast?
No, we did. No,
you do it now.
Do it now.
This is fun.
So we were at the press conference with Kate Brooks and all the other journalists are in the room, and she was telling us about this and that.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is sounding good. Some bits we like the sound of, some bits we don't like the sound of. And I can't remember. It was about 20 minutes or so into the interview, and she says, I think Ali
She's saying about returning characters. Are there going to be any returning characters?
No, I thought it was, they were talking about Lisa and Carla.
We could actually find this out, but we're not going to.
It doesn't matter. And she says, yes, there is going to be a... look, what we'll do... I'm going to play you a clip of the moment because it was so cool. Here's the moment when we found out that Rob Donovan was coming back to Coronation Street. The next voice you're going to hear is Kate Brooks.
There is a big one, a big Rob Donovan return. Oh, I got it. Oh. I know, it was good that. Can we do that again? Because I just enjoyed it. Can we do it loud? there just for the benefit of the doubt.
In fact, he's downstairs filming right now.
Yeah. So Rob Donovan will be returning.
It was great, wasn't it?
It was so much fun.
It was the gasp, and I don't think the microphone picked it up brilliantly, but the first gasp, it really was like, oh,
yeah, you
the
didn't hear a lot of
excitement in the room, the genuine non-panto gasp.
Well, yeah, because we were like, we'd never been to a press thing together for. I mean, I've been to lots of press things, and
not for Corrie though.
No, but it's like, well, what do you do? Can I really?
Yeah.
I'm going to do anyway, because that was really exciting stuff. Because look, Rob's been someone people have been, not just I love Kate Ford account, has been sort of talking about when he's going to come back. I remember when he got his even when he got his prison sentence to begin with, everyone was like, whoa, that's a long time.
I can't remember exactly how long, but he is
25 years.
That's it. So I don't think he's going to be out as part of this storyline. I assume this is just a temporary return.
Well,
and
look, I mean, not that you would free him, but I know that there's been stuff in the news about prison overcrowding, and we've got a new government now. I don't think they would let a murderer out.
Well, he also escaped, didn't he, a few years into his sentence, so that's not going to look good on his record.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, they could. I mean, in theory, if they wanted to.
Oh, anybody can get out of prison if they want to.
But yeah, the fact that he's back is just incredible, and the account we keep talking about, she had just been saying, like around the same time that I really want Rob to come back, and we like bookmarked it so that we could.
We really wanted to say.
We were like, I want to tell you
I
so
liked
badly.
a few of her tweets saying, "Oh, I really want Rob to come back." So.
But just to be clear, don't let that ever be a clue, because we like all kinds of things. It doesn't necessarily.
Yes, if you're saying we like something, and we happen to tweet we like it. We're not.
Yeah, and sometimes a prediction will is not necessarily going to happen.
No, for sure.
But I know that other journalists do give out hints, because I saw somebody else giving out a hint today about something that's going to happen, which I thought. Did you? Yes, I'll tell you later.
Do I know about this?
I'll tell you. No.
Okay. Was I reading this story, or were you?
Yeah.
You. Okay. So Bobby's there. He's gone to see his dad. Remember, he's his dad, and we kind of see bits of their conversation together. We learn that Bobby had visited Rob a little bit in the past, but he's not been in touch with him for a long time.
Yeah.
And Rob's
he misses him.
Yeah. Rob says he misses him, and he's saying, I've been just trying to keep my head down in here. I've been helping people out. I've been struggling a little bit. I'm the closest they've got to family. And Bobby's like, oh, family's important to you, is it? Then put your money where your mouth is. So it's a bit of a clunky segue into, we need your kidney. And Rob's not happy with this news,
We don't see him ask.
We don't see him ask, but we see Rob
reaction.
Absolutely livid about the suggestion that he gives up this vital organ for his lying cowbag of a sister Carla, who's been poisoning Bobby with lies about Rob being a murderer. And I thought this was interesting. I can't remember, did Rob plead self-defense before? Have we heard that? I honestly don't remember. It may well be an established fact that he has been saying, I didn't do it. But it took me by surprise, at least, when he was saying to Bobby, oh, me killing Tina was self-defense. She was a psycho.
He's like, I don't need karma, because I've been punished for something that I kind of had to do.
Unless they tried to go down, this is a little angle into, are they going to get him to appeal to be freed? I can't see that happening. But anyway, he's like, no, I'm not having it. I'm bogging back off to my cell. And Bobby's like, she's going to die without a donor, please. So at the hospital, meanwhile, you got Carla telling Lisa that the circumstances around Aidan's death and how he took his own life. And she's like, I think this is really touching as well, didn't she?
This.
I think you were. It's all right, I picked up. She's like saying, this kidney in here, it's the only bit I've got left of him.
You're not taking it out, though.
Yeah, just squash another one in, Carla. It's fine. And Lisa says, look, sometimes I feel that Becky's looking down on me, giving me strength. It's lovely. This is what Aidan's going to be doing for you as well. Everybody.
Well, it's even more poignant that Carla might be starting to think to herself, have I done something wrong?
Mm.
And maybe Betsy will too, because, it's kind of her fault.
I hadn't really thought of it. And I don't think is it morbid? I don't really know. I suppose Tracy's got Samir's kidney inside her, and she kind of makes a joke out of it.
Is it?
But does Carla?
It kidney? Or is it something else?
Yeah, it's kidney, Moroccan kidney. And Carla, obviously, and Carla, I'd never really thought of, how much does she consider that there is literally a bit of my brother in here, living.
Yeah.
I guess.
And now it's
inside me.
dying again.
Yeah,
You
and I'm supposed to be protecting it, so I thought that was kind of an interesting
very
angle, very poignant and touching, just to fit in with the theme of the week.
Because kind of Aidan did sort of live for that, he could have killed himself. We saw him crying, didn't we? In the bed, and it was difficult. And I don't think they've ever really said what exactly he was crying about there. Like, was he crying because he was thinking, I nearly died before this, and I could have like not been alive to save my sister.
I think there were just a lot of overwhelming feelings going through Aidan's head in that
period.
So anyway, that's all very sad. Bobby's with Ryan back at the flat later, and Ryan can see he's a bit down, and Bobby tells him about what's been going on basically, and Ryan says, you don't want anything to do with that loser, you're better off without him. But later in the evening, Rob calls Bobby up to apologise and says, look, sorry, I was just upset. Carla is always going to be my sister, and if she needs my help, maybe I should give it to her. And he says, look, come and chat to me again, and we'll see.
This makes me think that Rob has an angle.
He's got to be. He wouldn't have changed his mind.
Himself, I can spin this.
I'm wondering, is this going to be an attempted prison break? Is he going to go to hospital and try and do a runner again?
I know that you cannot ethically ask a prisoner to give up an organ in return for any kind of preferential treatment.
No.
But I would imagine that if you do elect to do something like that, I mean, apart from anything else, it's going to be a nice change of scenery, isn't it?
Yeah,
you probably get treated a lot nicer in hospital. I don't know if the food's going to be that much better, but you're going to have it's going to be better. It's going to be nicer, isn't it? In hospital.
Also makes me wonder, who's he going to cross paths with while he's in hospital? Because there's always somebody from the street on there, isn't there?
Yes, I mean, when you're in prison, you have to be on first of all, you have to be on a list, don't you? And then you kind of have to be summoned. So, but in a hospital, people just come in and out. We've seen that happen the other day when that cop was standing there to attention. Remember?
Oh yeah, I remember.
So
I saw some people pondering online whether Mason's kidneys might be a match for Carla, and I don't know whether they're going to go down that route or even if it's too late for that to happen now. Really,
well, it's much too late now.
It's
I'm sure that I'm sure that if he was on the donor register, I mean, he wouldn't have been, would he? Because he's a child and he didn't. In this country,
oh yes, of course.
If you have a driving license, you have to opt out of being an organ donor.
You're automatically in. That's been a thing for
but
about
only
10
if
years
you're a
or so,
driver. Only if you have a driving license, which he wouldn't have. So there's no next of kin available. So all of his organs went.
Okay.
Wouldn't they?
Well, there we go.
There was nobody to give. There was nobody to give. Permission.
Yeah. I think we maybe need to talk more about Rob next week when we're not massively overrunning on a street talk. But I am interested to see how is Tracy going to be involved in this.
Yeah.
He was her love of her life.
I do think that he was the love of her life.
I really hope that they do use her in this.
They're
not going to get back together because he's in prison, but I'd love there to be some scenes. It'd be ridiculous not to, but then sometimes you get characters coming back and they don't have scenes when they clearly should. Like when Martin came back last time and he didn't have scenes with Jenny or something, I can't remember.
Well,
but come on, do it. I think this is a great angle for the story. I'm interested to see what his reaction to Carla and Lisa together is.
I mean, it's clear he's going to be a match.
Do you reckon?
It feels like I don't know. It feels
maybe
like it would be a massive
it probably wouldn't
cop-out.
be worth.
He's going to be in the show for a lot longer if he's a match. That's all I can say.
Well, yeah, I suppose so. If he gets tested,
because he's going to be tested, he's going to have visitors, he's going to decide to do it, he's going to go into a hospital, he's going to recover. That's a lot of stuff.
I'm still not expecting it to be a long-term return.
No,
it's
great.
It
won't be. Of course it won't be.
Nice bit of Corrie past, and it's not so recent a character that's like, oh, they're back again, like with Linda, for example. I mean, he was last in it in 2017, but. Yeah, this is great. He's almost becoming a bit of a Jim McDonald, isn't he? Like a pop back again, or a bit of a Terry Duckworth. I did not expect him to come back again, so it's been a nice surprise.
We have got a YouTube profile of this character.
It's only about half an hour long.
Go and listen to it if you want to if you want to refresh your memory.
If you
or
don't
you
know
who he is.
Rob Donovan is, we do have an excellent character profile from episode 98 of the podcast, which we then updated with everything that Rob did after then. But now it's out of date again. Thanks, Corrie.
Ugh.
Not updating it again, it's sticking like this. Right, finally at last, we have got the grandmother-in-law storyline, which was a tarafa now for Evelyn. I guess, do you want to take this again?
She basically, on Wednesday, is struggling to juggle her studying with all of her obligations for the family stuff, because everyone just sort of takes it for granted, and Tyrone's like, oh, look after the girls, do this and that. And she talks to Roy about this, and Roy's like, you must make sure that this course takes priority, because this is the most important thing. So Tyrone's like, right, look after the kids, runs off. And she tells him, I can't do this. I've got to focus. I'm going to have to move out. And Tyrone's like, yeah, whatever. You live with a load of students. I don't think so. And she's like, no, I genuinely...
I can't remember if it was that episode or Thursday where they had the conversation about beer pong. I think it was Thursdays. And she Eva's like, I'm going to have them playing brandy pong by the end of the semester.
Brandy pong, they'll all be dead. Right, so they have an emotional moment. And
there were some very nice goodbye scenes. Tyrone and Evelyn, Alan and Maureen have got a lovely chemistry together.
Over the years,
I'm going to really miss that. Yeah. But she's not gone, but it feels like it. Maureen Lipman's character of Evelyn is just like one of the best new characters that Coronation Street has had in the last 10 years. And it's sad. It's nice to know that she's not gone completely. But then, I mean, they said that about like Emily Bishop, didn't they? But I do believe that we will be seeing a little bit more of her, but just not as much, which is
we'll be seeing less of her.
Yes.
On Thursday, she's moving. She tells Dev
fast.
She tells Dev, I'm off. I'm not giving you any notice, and he's obviously a bit mad about this. So Fizz and Tyrone find her packing later, and they're like, "Are you going? What, you not even said goodbye?"
Interesting that she's packing in the front room rather than her bedroom, which is where I'm gonna say most of us would do our packing, but
most of her stuff would
let's
be there,
overlook that.
Right, so she's like, "Look, I've loved living here, but it's time to move on. I've got myself a nice little job in the library. Yeah. I've got a dog sitting job lined up," and they're like, "Great, all right, see you later."
It was really kind of feel-good exit, wasn't it?
So Evelyn and Roy have a little goodbye chat with Freddie on their lap, and they're eating milk bottles, and Freddie is just like sitting there going, when is somebody going to give me one of these goddamn milk bowls?
Freddie's been taking lessons from Doran for how to steal scenes with cuteness.
I know.
Hasn't he? And he
just
can't speak.
Going, like, I do get the impression that Maureen Lipman might have given him a sweet before the scene started, because he's like, where's another one? Yeah. Why are you eating
He was a little bit hyper, wasn't he?
And then Roy's hand is down, and he's like, is there a sweet in his hand? No, god damn. I love watching it. I always get distracted when there's a dog in the scene. So Roy invites her to the Rovers for one last drink, and she is left sort of looking after Freddie to say goodbye to him, and she's obviously really upset and giving him a cuddle. So they go to the pub, and Yasmin, Alia and Brian are there. And Cassie, Fizz and Tyrone show up, and there's, it's kind of he just
says goodbye to various people throughout various scenes. We don't get to see
there's not a taxi exit, so it doesn't feel as final.
Yeah, you're right. If we'd have seen her like driving off into the distance in the back of a taxi, looking wistfully out the window, it might have felt
like a proper end.
But it didn't.
I do genuinely hope that it's not just, a bit of misdirection, and she will be back. You can never tell, because sometimes people will make a big fuss and say, I'm going, but I might stick about. And, 3 months later, they're back again. And sometimes you never see them again in your life.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I really want to see more of Maureen, though. Maureen Lipman is so great. But she's got so much going on. She's got her own... She wants to spend more time with her partner, so... Yeah.
Fair play.
Yeah. I say get him a job on Corrie. Do it that way. But it's not down to me.
Exactly. So that was... To cut a long story short,
that was
the end of what happened this week in Coronation Street.
That was a very long street talk for mostly one story.
Yeah, well, it was a big week. It was a cracking week. I went into it knowing that, I was probably going to like Monday's episode, but I was not prepared for just how much I would adore the week. I'm not giving it a 5 because I never give her anything a 5, but I will very confidently give this 4.5 jelly beans left for Carla in the bag out of 5 for sure.
Bobby spat on one of them.
Yeah, that half one Bobby said, and it was a green one. What are you scoring it?
It's clearly, it's slightly over a 4.5. It's not a 5. It never is a 5.
I don't know what can make a 5. But I'm sure that some of our Facebook groupers will be voting this a 5 this week.
4.5 soggy teddies, obviously.
Oh yeah, soggy teddies. We were going to go for that. It feels wrong to give a character of the week because everyone was so good. Oh, he got the easy way.
Yeah, sorry.
He was only in it for a bit. Do we give it to Mason? I love Sean. Abby was fantastic. I'm not sure whether I like all of the hallucinatory bits, but it's clearly going that way. Go on, man. We've been running too long. I'm not going to dilly dally over this. Mason, character of the week. Okay, he was character of the week. He was character of the week last week, wasn't he?
Well, he's not getting it again. Maybe he will, because he might be in the show next week, for all we know, haunting Abby.
He could well be.
I tell you what, it's kind of a good thing they plastered over that hatch, because he could have poked his head out. Imagine how scary that would be. Watching telly and then somebody pokes their head out of the hatch.
Right, that at last is the end of this week's Street Talk.